So should we jump on board the deck list and start going through them?
Let's do it. But also, how cool is Shaggy's actual name? He's Elias Sagmeister. I'm a fan.
Meister.
So we've got Line Pocket Syndicate, we've got Arrakis Swarm Monsters, we've got Blaze of Glory Skellige, and we've got Double Cross Nilfgaard.
Yeah, I mean, nothing too out of the ordinary just at first glance. We do have some differences in the decks themselves. Obviously, we have things like Sal being an interesting choice. It is, again, a very good card when it is able to stick. It can be a bit awkward at times, though. But if you do get it in round one, it can be another way to put pressure on your opponent, especially can be strong on red coin, be able to get those 3 points ticking every single turn, asking your opponent, what are you going to do about this threat? If you don't answer it, you're in trouble. And if you do answer it, well, then that's one of your answers gone that you now no longer can use to answer a cleaver or whatnot.
Yep, sounds good. It should be worth knowing that we have banished Quill and Specimen to the Shadow Realm while we talk about decks, so it's not too confusing. Then we've got this Arrakis one list. It seems relatively standard, I would say. I mean, do you see anything particularly spicy going on there?
The only thing Portal's about the only thing that really stands out to me. Instead of playing Yurden, it does play the Portal instead. This can be quite good against Nilfgaard, getting that extra pressure, and also the one big issue with this deck is that when it goes up against Nilfgaard, it has awkwardnesses when you have Yennefer and Yurden. You can't really play this card early on or any time except for Final Say, because if you do, obviously Nilfgaard can coup de grace it. They can use the leader ability and steal it for themselves. So having that Yurden not in your deck can actually be quite good against Nilfgaard. Portal, of course, being a very nice, another form of tempo abuse in round 1, 2. I would definitely say this is going to be a red coin deck now that I see the Portal in it for sure.
Then we have Blaze of Glory, which we talked about a little bit earlier. It seems, it's really standard. There's Blood Eagle, there's Herald, there's Iced. There's nothing too much going on here that makes it particularly exciting. But some people think that it performs well. I always feel like Skellige Warrior seems to be very hit and miss. Like, if you can manage to play your Iced in the way that you want it to, then it's great. But a lot of the times that doesn't happen. And this can sometimes be the weak link, I think, in a roster.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think Shaggy, and it's been, I think, for a lot of qualifiers, when Shaggy gets his win through with Skellige early on, he usually is in a very strong position to take the series. But sometimes I have seen him struggle with the Skellige list, as it is somewhat of, we spoke about it earlier, one of those weaker quote-unquote decks in the lineup. So it could end up being a weak link depending on how the opponent's targeting strategy ends up playing out.
And then last but not least, we have the Double Cross, and it does have the Gotha Gavade in there because who doesn't love Alchemist? We talked about this card a little bit, and there is the option of an Alchemist, but none in the bronze package.
Yeah, I mean, that Alchemist definitely can swing games. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. It can do some nasty things, and this deck is one that can pull out some very, very interesting win conditions. Just when you think you're safe, suddenly your opponent plays a location, they steal one of your best cards, Alchemist, and now the whole game is on its head, and it can change in the blink of an eye. So definitely a deck to watch out for, and very, very strong deck indeed. So it's going to be a tough one to beat consistently, I would say. Nilfgaard is quite decent in the current meta. Yeah,
it's one of those cards that it depends on your deck a little bit as well. Like, if you have decks that are very reliant on core cards, Keltul is often a deck like that, where they have very specific cards that they really need to find. Then the Alchemist can be so detrimental if it just takes your entire condition. You need to kind of think about that with your matchups. Whereas, double cross into, or not double cross, Alchemist into something like Syndicate, not maybe as terrible, because yes, there are key cards that you have there, but your opponent doesn't necessarily benefit from having them.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to point out the Arrakis Swarm deck, going back to that one. Very consistent deck in terms of your thinning. You have the Wild Hunt Riders, you also have the Portal. So you're getting quite a bit of thinning done in round 1. So this deck should be able to put a lot of pressure on round 1, whilst also thinning the deck. So I would expect this to predominantly be used as a red coin deck. Unless, of course, Shaggy maybe wants to try, play some mind games and counter queue certain matchups with a deck on a more suboptimal coin flip. But otherwise, that is probably going to end up being Shaggy's red coin deck. And then we also have Line Pocket, which does like red coin, whereas Blaze of Glory Double Cross might end up being the blue coin picks, depending on what ends up getting banned from Shaggy's side.
So if you were playing, say, a relatively similar lineup, what are you going to go for with your ban? Because, we saw Wang ID, for example, he was banning Skellige in the top 16, I believe. He was going off-piste, he was banning Skellige, and that's what worked for him, because his lineups were designed around just not playing into Skellige, and he took his chances with Line Pockets. but often Line Pockets is a ban target. Like, it eats a lot of bans.
Yeah, Line Pockets definitely is one that does get banned a lot. Monsters can too. Sometimes, things like when you have things like V and you have things like Calculus, also decks that you either have a line that does good against it or you have a line that does bad against it and you just ban it. So it's going to be, we have to first take a look and see what ForeverYOLO is bringing, which we do see now. Also, Line Pockets. This one is playing with Tavern Brawl instead of the Sal. Also playing the Kurt tech card there, being able to get access to either Purify or a Bounty. Bounty, of course, can in some situations be quite beneficial, especially against Skellige. So Line Pockets. No Heatwave though. How do you feel about that, Jagras? No access or no Heatwave in this Line Pockets list.
I feel like Line Pockets, I mean, it's such a powerful list anyway, and Heatwave is, it's 10 provision, so it's on the more expensive side of things. It depends on what you're kind of worried about. Heatwave is great against certain lists, like it's great against Calculus and those sorts of lists where you can kind of get through something. But at the same time, if you don't expect those kind of lists from your opponent, do you really need the Heatwave? Is the kind of thought process. I like to have it. I always feel like Heatwave's one of those cards where you really feel it when you don't have it. It's not a card that, like, when you do have it, usually you can find a decent target. It's not like, oh, I wish I hadn't put this Heatwave in this list, said nobody ever, right? I just don't see that ever happening. So I kind of prefer to include Heatwave, but I can understand the thought process behind it.
Yeah, I mean, one matchup though where that Heatwave will be extremely beneficial that he will not be able to answer is the double cross matchup, because of the fact that Masquerade Ball being a very important target to deal with, and Syndicate without the Heatwave can struggle against Nilfgaard, and it can actually struggle against Nilfgaard even with the Heatwave. So it's gonna be interesting to see if ForeverYOLO maybe takes it into consideration when he thinks about his bans, because obviously Nilfgaard could end up being a bit of a problem for the Line Pockets. And then moving on to a Ruckus Swarm, the tried and true deck, I guess you could say, with the Yrden and the Yennefer. This is a very much standard one you typically will see on ladder and quite often in tournaments as well. Nothing really strikes me out of the ordinary here. Just a very standard list of what we're used to seeing.
No, I actually think I like the portal choice though for the tournament. It gives you some thinning, which is always really nice with the Ruckus Swarm, so you can find certain cards that you want. And again, you're just playing again. You're stopping your opponent from resetting you with your own Yrden, right? Like, Yrden kind of plays into its own strategy a little bit against things like Nilfgaard. But also, I just feel like, how often do you need to reset things? Like, Yrden against Skellige, for example, is just trash because Skellige doesn't boost. So there are situations where Yrden's just kind of bad. So I like the thing that Shaggy's kind of gone for. But next up, we do have Blaze of Glory, which looks, again, much like a fairly standard list. It's got Morkvarg in it.
It does have Donor, that instead of Herkia. I wonder how much that ends up changing things. It's worse against Nilfgaard, because Herkia obviously being a very, very good card against Nilfgaard. I'm starting to see a strategy here. ForeverYOLO seems to not really care much about Nilfgaard. He's not got Heatwave in. He's not got Herkia in his Blaze of Glory list. That might indicate that ForeverYOLO does seem to maybe want to be banning Nilfgaard, because if you're going to ban Nilfgaard anyway, then you don't need to put these tech cards against Nilfgaard. You can kind of just ignore it if that is indeed what ForeverYOLO might go for. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nilfgaard getting banned based on what I've seen so far with ForeverYOLO's tech choices.
Also, if you don't want your game to be decided by Alchemist, then you can ban Nilfgaard, and then that can't happen. So honestly, maybe it's like a big brain ForeverYOLO play going down that kind of ban line. And we have our double cross list. It's the kind of Masquerade Ball, the Usurper, the Gothic Vade. So he's like, I will ban Nilfgaard, but I will also play Nilfgaard. Kind of best of both worlds sort of thing.
Yeah, ForeverYOLO saying, if anyone's going to hire, it's going to be me, not for you, Mr. Opponent. Only I'm allowed to do that. As moving on to Nilfgaard here, ForeverYOLO is indeed playing, once again, a very standard double cross list. This one does not play the locks, instead it does play the slave hunters. There is some, there is some back and forth between players what they prefer. The locks can be very nice, but sometimes the slave hunters are also just very strong engines. They can set up your coup de grace. They can help just deal with some threats potentially. And that list is going to be, again, one of the stronger decks in the meta right now, and one that can be a headache for players to deal with, because, again, you never really feel safe when you're against Nilfgaard. Some decks, you're winning, you got a lead, you say, it's in the bag. But Nilfgaard, they can do things. They can do a lot of things, and you just always have to be on your toes when you're up against this list, in my experience.
Do you feel like the Heatwave removal in Line Pockets is like trying to bait someone into not banning it? I know that Gravesh, what did Gravesh put in one of his lists? He put an absolute trash card.
Yes, he put a Peasant Militia.
Peasant Militia in one of his Syndicate, wasn't it? And been like, oh, don't ban my Syndicate. I don't know how to deck build. Look, I got Peasant Militia. And so people didn't ban it, and then he just smurfed on them with it. So, that might be the thought process. I was like, I don't have Heatwave, so you could not ban this, and that would be okay. I don't know. Like, you could definitely see that kind of thought process going on.
Heat, there is some argument. Again, if you are banning Nilfgaard, then Heatwave might not necessarily be great. It's not good against the Ruckus Swarm. It's not particularly amazing against Skellige a lot of the time. So outside of Nilfgaard, Heatwave doesn't always find amazing value. So if you're banning Nilfgaard, I can definitely get behind the absence of a Heatwave. That does make the matchup against Kaltulis though a lot more difficult though without that Heatwave. Also makes the V matchup almost impossible, I would think, for Syndicate. So it definitely has its downsides. There are some matchups where he might miss it out on, but if he cues into what he predicts, then maybe it won't end up matching a whole lot. And yeah, those games should begin very soon. I'm trying to remember who I predicted. I think I predicted
You predicted
Shaggy, and I think you were on for.
I was ForeverYOLO because he has glasses.
Okay. All right, glasses. Team glasses, of course.
Team glasses and Team Twitter. That's me, basically. If you have Twitter and you have glasses, you're a shoo-in. If you only have Twitter, that's still fine because Gravish doesn't have Twitter. So what's he going to do? He can't tweet at me and hurt my feelings.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up going.
Bans are going to be, though. I feel like it's a situation we could ban more or less whatever.
I would expect to see ForeverYOLO perhaps banning Nilfgaard from Shaggy. It kind of seems, and that is exactly what we see happen. Mm-hmm. Shaggy's Nilfgaard did get banned, and ForeverYOLO's Monsters of Ruckus Swarm end up getting banned here. Makes a lot of sense as thought about, as we did mention. ForeverYOLO has not included any tech cards or anything against Nilfgaard, so obviously he's saying Nilfgaard is cheap, not allowed. I'm not going to worry about it, putting it behind me, and I'm going to focus my tech choices on other matchups that I deem more important.
So how do you feel about the Arrakis Swarm ban by Shaggy? What's the kind of thought process going on there?
I mean, so Shaggy's Syndicate will obviously struggle against Ruckus Swarm. In the mirror without the Yrden, Shaggy will struggle against a Ruckus Swarm as well. The Yrden is very, very beneficial in the mirror. His Nilfgaard could have been bad against it too, but again, Nilfgaard got banned. The only deck basically of Shaggy's that's good against the Ruckus Swarm is his Skellige. So I guess Shaggy's saying that monster deck is the biggest threat and ends up banning it.
Yeah. And he maybe feels like his Line Pockets, the version which does have Heatwave, does better than ForeverYOLO's list. And that's the thing with Heatwave. Heatwave's also not a great card against Arrakis Swarm, right? So
yes,
if he can play his Arrakis Swarm against ForeverYOLO's Line Pockets, that Heatwave differential can maybe kind of have an impact. So those are one of the things that you really want to think about when you're looking at decks and looking at cards. And these players, they knew the decks, right? This is open deck lists. It's not like previous opens where it was a surprise. Players do know what their opponent is bringing. They can be strategic in the way that they ban. They know who's going on blue coin and who's going on red coin. And I can't remember which is which. I think Shaggy's on blue coin.
I missed that one. But speaking of open deck lists, speaking of open deck lists, ForeverYOLO is including Tavern Brawl, which is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how that ends up performing because, again, Tavern Brawl is a card that can be very easily played around in a lot of matches. If you know it's there, it is a card that you always have at the back of your mind saying, play around Tavern Brawl, play around Tavern Brawl. It's a card that can get significantly worse value if your opponent is aware. So it's going to be interesting to see if this Tavern Brawl can find value on open deck lists. Now, in some matchups, it's difficult to play around. For example, V can struggle to play around it. Nilfgaard can sometimes struggle to play around it. But in a lot of matchups, of course, it is a card that might actually end up being quite bad. It is also very good in the mirror, I must say that, though. Tavern Brawl in the Syndicate mirror is exceptionally good. Being able to use the cleaver to duel the shielded muscle that spawns next to it and basically kill itself is actually incredibly valuable in the Syndicate mirror. So that's going to be a matchup where that Tavern Brawl will shine a lot.
And bear in mind, like, if you're not planning on banning Line Pockets, then you maybe want to go in against it. But we are getting into the first game now, and we can see that Shaggy is on blue, as I said. He's playing his Skellige versus ForeverYOLO on Skellige. So we've got Skellige mirror. How do you feel about red and blue?
I think blue coin is quite now. The thing about blue coin is it's beneficial. However, it does mean it's going to be the only time that ForeverYOLO can get Morkfog value. So ForeverYOLO really wants to find that Morkfog, and I don't think he has it available to him, which means that Shaggy going to be in a pretty good spot. Now, if you have first say, you are in a much stronger position to win round one. You can get those engines down. You can start reacting to your opponent's engines quickly. And if you win round one, having ice for final say makes your ice just approximately 6 or 5 points better than your opponent's ice, which is just going to be just better points. So the winner of round one, I would have to say, is going to be in a somewhat favored position.
Yeah, and then in terms of the leader matchup, I always do this now. I like to see, which leader do we think is the better leader. We have Shoop with Angel Wings versus Shoop with bunny ears.
Wow, these players really taking the mirror to heart here as we see.
Yeah, but
Leader
where are you?
skin-
Are you team angel wings or you team bunny ears? Which is a better accessory?
I don't know. I kind of like the bunny ears. I
Really?
kind of like the bunny ears. Then again, I'm on Team Shaggy anyway, so I guess I'm gonna have to go with the angel wings. But kind of like the bunny ears there.
Nah, the angel wings are well cute. Like the bunny ears are. You can't even see them. And Easter's like over, man. It's April. I mean, Easter was probably also in April. Actually, yeah, Easter was in April, but it was a while ago. Anyway, so Shaggy opening up with the Ancrate.
Your favorites.
I'm
Your favorite, the
down.
on-crate longship is coming down here. Jagras' absolute favorite card. We might see a second one with this Vabion being able to grab maybe a rating fleet. The question is, does Shaggy want to commit that as well in round one? Might be a little bit expensive on blue coin, but if Shaggy can get whoever wins round one, I would have to say is a pretty good position. One thing that is a bit dangerous for Shaggy is his hand is a little bit less playable than ForeverYOLO. He's got the Herald, the Cripple, and he's got the Skjorl. Not really cards you want to play in round one, as well as the Iced and Totem too. A lot of cards that Shaggy doesn't want to play in this round one, whereas ForeverYOLO's hand is, for the most part, pretty playable, and that could definitely help ForeverYOLO contest round one a lot deeper.
Yeah, the hand situation for Shaggy is not that great. Like, he's got the advantage of being able to set up early and deal with ForeverYOLO's engines. You know, he's got the Ancrate ship down, so everything that ForeverYOLO is playing is getting pinged. He's got the Raider there to deal 2 damage. He's got those little bits of damage, but his issue, to an extent, is just that he doesn't have enough time. But these pings, depending on where they go, may open up an opportunity for the TA. You know, Shaggy doesn't know that ForeverYOLO doesn't have Mork Fog, so he'd like to use this tactical advantage on a damaged unit.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely something that Shaggy wants to keep in mind. Doesn't want to give too much value to Mork Fog, as this is pretty much the only time ForeverYOLO will get Mork Fog value. Then again, ForeverYOLO does not have Mork Fog in hand. Mork Fog in the Skellige Mirror, usually not a card that gets exceptional value. Now, Shaggy might want to be careful. If he kills any of these 4 provision cards, he does enable War of Clans, and ForeverYOLO does have it War of Clans. Now, this just opens up another playable card for ForeverYOLO to invest in round one, should he feel the need to. The question, how deep is this round one going to go?
I feel like Shaggy's in a position, like, he does have a few more cards to play, and if he keeps dominating ForeverYOLO's board, you know, ForeverYOLO might just reach the point of thinking, well, everything I invest is just getting killed. You know, I can keep playing, but I'm going to have to invest something big at some point to catch up, right? Because at the moment, if you look at the point gap, it's 15 points to 1. That's a 14-point gap. So there's a solid gap in favor of Shaggy, and ForeverYOLO might reach the point where he feels like that's not really surpassable. And if that's the case, you're better to carry your Ancrate Longship over to another round to gain value from it then, than to play it in a round you think that you're going to lose.
For sure. So carry on.
I was going to say, if he feels like, you know, Shaggy's going to keep going with this round and has the cards to do that, then it may be better to just save your value cards. But you can see him hovering the Ancrate there, I think. Yeah,
for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. If you think you're in a position where you're going to be losing the round, it definitely might be beneficial to rather preserve what you can. The question is, does ForeverYOLO get a sense of Shaggy's hand? Because if ForeverYOLO gets a sense of Shaggy's hand, he might want to... I think ForeverYOLO definitely can contest this round. However, again, it comes down to a bit of a mind game here of how playable does ForeverYOLO expect Shaggy's hand to be? Because Shaggy is starting to run out of things he can play very, very quickly. And the question is, does Forever want to keep, you know, kind of poking at Shaggy and ask him, what more do you have that you can play in this round?
And this isn't, you know, for Shaggy, it's not a terrible pass. You're 10 points up. You're not playing into the long ship, so he's not getting any more value out of that engine. That engine's kind of disabled. So he could opt to just be like, you know what, I'll pass here and just kind of leave it at that. You know, he has the option of using the Bear Witcher for 1 more card, and I think it's okay to play the Bear Witcher in this situation, but you know, it's not really doing...
That does give some information, though. ForeverYOLO's going to look at this player and say, why exactly are you playing that early Bear Witcher? Does your hand look unplayable? Because this does start giving ForeverYOLO some hints. And if ForeverYOLO gets a sense of this, he might keep going. The gap is big, but winning round 1 is incredibly valuable in this mirror. Let's see if ForeverYOLO keeps investing here or not.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when you're not getting the adrenaline for it, it's not really the great play. And that's why, you know, I thought maybe he'd opt for the pass, but, you know, maybe he thinks ForeverYOLO is going to start running out of things to play as well. And like ForeverYOLO, he's got the same problem with his Bear Witcher. He can't really play it now. His War of Clans, you know, does he really have a target for that? And he's actually opting, I think, for the Bjorn here.
Yeah, I see the Vabion coming out here from ForeverYOLO. Looks like he is going to be pulling out that Blood Eagle and does want to keep contesting, it seems, for now. I'm going to be grabbing out what exactly this Blood Eagle will not have, will not be able to be grabbing out anything other than 7 provision cards or lower, as we do see an on-crate Raider now coming out. And this is keeping ForeverYOLO just comfortably in reach and saying, what are you going to do, Shaggy? I'm just going to play the reach game now. And Shaggy doesn't want any of it. He's saying, all right, I'm out. I'm not going to play this game with you. I'm out of round 1. Have your final say. My hand's unplayable. Let's just go on to the next rounds.
And it's allowing ForeverYOLO then, if he wants to play the Bear Witcher on curve. He's got the adrenaline, and he doesn't have anything that he's like unhappy to damage in this board state. It's not like there's lots of armor or anything where you didn't have a target, so he can get those 8 points and he can get ahead. But actually, that won't get him ahead, will it? Because of the boat. So it was based on even. He needs a 9.
He needs a little bit more. Which, looking at this hand, I think only Turkey is enough. Here comes the Bear Witcher. That is going to only play for 8 points. That is a little bit unusual because now ForeverYOLO going 2 cards down. Was that a miscalculation? That is very, very unusual. Going 2 cards down the mirror is not a position you want to be in. I think maybe he might have forgotten about the on-crate longship ping there, or perhaps he was bluffing with the reach. Shaggy getting a very good pass, actually, it seems, and looking quite comfortable with that circumstance, going 2 cards up into the next round.
Yeah, not entirely sure what the thought process is. I think in that situation, you just play the Turkey. Like, Turkey is nice. Having the Rupture is nice. I don't think Shaggy's running Grimace, so it's kind of guaranteed in this big value. Like, maybe, ForeverYOLO is saying this Turkey onto something taller is going to be worth it. But, like, he doesn't have last say, right? So he doesn't necessarily have that guarantee that he's going to find a big tall target for it.
Yeah, this is definitely, I mean, this now means that Shaggy has now secured final say, which is pretty big. I think ForeverYOLO are going to have to rely on a ForeverYOLO onto the ice and just hope for the best, force as a last play, and try get that ice to perhaps maybe hope Shaggy misses his units and draws a special while he maybe gets a nice high base strength unit, because I don't think outside of a YOLO ice, there's going to be much hope here for ForeverYOLO. So we'll have to see what ends up happening in this round 3, as Shaggy looking like he's in a very good spot suddenly to take this game.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of talking about earlier. You might want to take your pass because you feel like it's too difficult to climb the mountain. And ForeverYOLO playing the War of Plans plus the Bear Witcher, I think an odd choice. And I'm inclined to say I think it was a choice rather than a miscalculation. So, who knows? Who knows? But Shaggy just opening with his proactive play, getting his Foul Blood Totem on the board, and ForeverYOLO replying with the exact same play. Just totem for totem at the moment. They're going totem to totem, and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, I must say, though, both players here having a pretty good hand for this round number 3. The only issue is, of course, ForeverYOLO being a card down is definitely going to hurt. Here comes Harold the Cripple. Will be pinging off one of those Fanatics. What makes Totem really good in the mirror is the random pings that Skellige is very known for. Does end up getting soaked by these Fanatics, as they do end up transforming to a 6 strength Bear Abomination when they are berserk, meaning that when they're half strength or lower, they will end up regaining their strength. So very, very good against the random damage, which we see come into effect here. It's just soaking up that first ping from the Herald the Cripple in this early stage of round number 3.
It is annoying, though, for ForeverYOLO. You're down a card, but also you're setting up your card second, right? Shaggy getting his cards on the board. He's got the Uncrate Raider there available for that 2 damage. Well, he still has it available. I thought it died for a second. He's got that 2 damage available should he need it. The one thing that is, I guess, frustrating for Shaggy was that he had nothing to damage, but then Harold decided to give him something to damage, I guess. So now we have that 1 transform bear, and it makes clicking the totem now really awkward for ForeverYOLO. Like, he doesn't really want to touch his totem.
Yeah, for sure. This is now where things get pretty awkward. I mean, you also brought a very good point. Having both first say and final say is really good for Shaggy, because then you get the best of both worlds, I mean, there's definitely some strong merits to having final say in this mirror, but first say also has some upsides to getting your engines down first. But now Shaggy says, well, I'm just going to take both. I'm going to get first say and I'm going to get final say. I'm going to get both worlds here.
Yeah, he probably feels like Hannah Montana right about now. But some players start to sack their cards now with the Vabjorn onto the raiding fleet, onto Skjerdal to pull out another Uncrate Warrior. And this is the kind of engine thing that's going on. Shaggy, he did have Harkia. ForeverYOLO managed to deal with that engine, but yet another engine has sailed out of the deck and onto the board. And ForeverYOLO really doesn't have anything established in the same capacity. He does have his own raiding fleet, so he can use that to maybe try and set up something. But when Shaggy has the Skjerdal in pocket, I feel like we may see a sunk ship very, very soon.
Yeah, it looks like that ship will eventually succumb to the elements, as it is going through some rough waters, which might soon sink it. However, looking at the board state right now, we do see that Shaggy does have a very dominant lead, and he still has an additional card to ForeverYOLO after this next card is, of course, played. So Shaggy looks like he is just cruising through things right now. We'll have to see what the Ice end up pulling, because, again, this thing is, in these Skellige mirrors, sometimes it comes down to what Ice shows you. Ice is often played as the very last card to try to play around the opponent's Ice. And if Ice top decks you a special card, you can't resurrect a special card, so it could end up being half dead. Whereas maybe your opponent doesn't get a special card and they get something like a Yuta, and then suddenly you have an amazing Ice, whereas your opponent unfortunately might not. So it all might end up coming down to Ice. But for now, though, Shaggy looks like he's just in a pretty good spot to take this one.
I agree. I think Shaggy has he has card advantage, right? That's a big deal in a mirror. If you have an extra card, that's going to help you a lot. But his hand seems pretty thick as well, and it looks like the Kadok. I'm not going to call it Kadooch. I'm just Kadok coming down. And he's positioning that in such a way that he can heal up this boat and make sure it doesn't bleed to death. I'm not entirely sure how boats bleed to death, but so that doesn't happen, along with the Bear Witcher, and get those extra value from that click. And he still hasn't clicked his totem, but keep that in mind as well.
Yes, I mean, Shaggy obviously trying to hope that maybe the Herald Cripple might sink a few pings onto the Fanatics just for now. Although, that being said, there is now 2 Bloodthirsts, actually 3 Bloodthirsts on the board, so ForeverYOLO could use that Donar to actually kill off one of these Fanatics and make clicking the totem a bit awkward for Shaggy, so could find some good value there on that Donar, as we'll have to see what ForeverYOLO's thought process is now. Does have the Greatsword, probably going to be a target he might want to discard with the Ice, unless he wants to play the Greatsword from hand and then maybe play Ice last, then he might want to play that Greatsword a little bit earlier. So looks like for now he's going to play the Donar and possibly going to end up killing one of these Fanatics for now. Looks like that is exactly what he's going to end up doing here. And now clicking the totem becomes a bit awkward for Shaggy.
He did pick the correct Fanatic as well. If he killed the one on the left, that wouldn't have been too problematic for Shaggy, since as he had no friends. He was a lonely Fanatic with no friends, alas. Oh, well, I mean, now he can click the totem, right?
Yeah, I mean, now totem is safe to click.
The totem. Click the totem. Come on, Shaggy, do it.
Oh, no.
I mean, I guess he doesn't have to do it right now. He could play everything on the front row.
Yeah, I mean, for now, he could just still wait. Herald the Cripple might still end up picking it. Does click the Kadoosh, though, so could Totem, not Totem's turn yet, but Kadoosh will end up getting its click, as Shaggy will try keep his on-crate longship alive a little while longer, and needs to start getting that War of Clans value going soon. Going to play the Skjordor, going to kill off Herald the Cripple, and now look at the point gap. It is 10 points in favor of Shaggy, and equal cards with Final Stay still for Shaggy. I mean, even if iced low rolls here, Shaggy might still be able to take it. So Shaggy in a really good spot. ForeverYOLO's going to pull something out the bag here if he wants to have a shot in this first game.
Shaggy can't low roll iced. He doesn't have any special cards in deck.
Oh,
neither does
that is
ForeverYOLO.
Good observation. Oh, that's actually very, very interesting. Then, I mean, ForeverYOLO still has a Gutting Slash. So actually, if anyone can low roll the ice, it's actually ForeverYOLO.
Oh, yeah.
So ForeverYOLO is going to play the early ice, then it seems, and he finds the Hunter. Probably going to end up discarding the Greatsword, I would say. One thing that ForeverYOLO does have that Shaggy doesn't is the Turgvi. Turgvi is an exceptional card in the mirror, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough after this card deficit in round 3.
I think he's maybe trying to, encourage Shaggy to play his iced early. Oh, look, here's some big units, play your iced. But he doesn't have to, is the thing. And so as long as kind of Shaggy can hold out on that, then the Turgvi's, the best target the Turgvi has at the moment is a 7.
We'll have to see what Shaggy's thought process is here. Is he going to take the bait, or is he going to just wait for the Turgvi? The longer Shaggy waits for Turgvi, the better it is for him, as he can play around, or rather the ice, as he can play around the Turgvi there. We see War of Clans now coming out with the Invader. Nice that it has Veil, which means that Turgvi, once again, still can't get Eruption on that. It can get Eruption on the Bear Witcher, but not quite as devastating on the massive Yuta that could end up playing. So now Shaggy going to be playing the ice last, I believe, to play around that Turgvi. Going to probably play the Blood Eagle now and keep that till last same.
Yeah, and the point gap does look pretty solidly in ForeverYOLO's favor, 40-27, but we haven't seen iced baby. And iced is niced, as you will come to see in the final round of the turn, when you can play him in the way you want to play him, with the full discarding and all that jazz. It kind of equates to a lot of points. So is Turgvi as good as iced?
I don't think so. No. Iced, nothing's as good as iced. Iced is one of those cards which just shakes and ruptures the whole world when he's played. He really has a big impact. Here comes the ice. Only going to be discarding a 3, it's not really great, but then again with lead ability, it's so many points that Shaggy quite comfortably takes this one. Just absolutely devastating amount of points. Ice just absolutely doing some work, it seems. There comes the Yuta. So many points. And Shaggy will end up taking game number 1 by a respectable 13 points in the Skellige Mirror. And you see a huge sigh of relief there for Shaggy as he gets his win through Skellige. We spoke about the Skellige is a deck that's important to get a win with. It is not an easy deck to get its win through. And if you get that win through early with Skellige, you're feeling a lot more comfortable for the rest of the series, saying, all right, now I can move on to things like my Syndicate or my Nilfgaard. Of course, Nilfgaard was banned here, but you get the idea.
And in that Skellige Mirror, we did see Iced not once but twice, but only one of them was feisty. I'm going to stop. I just needed to get that. I need to get out of my system. So Shaggy takes the first round 1-0. I mean, he did have blue coin, which tends to help in a Skellige Mirror anyway. And maybe, I'm not entirely sure, what ForeverYOLO's thought process was with queuing Skellige on red. Maybe he just wants to get that win out of the way. Like you said, it's nice to get the Skellige win done. But with that round 1, it kind of spelled disaster when he went a card down in round 1.
Yeah, I don't think ForeverYOLO was anticipating Shaggy to queue in with Skellige there, because you don't really want to queue Skellige on red in the mirror. So I think that ForeverYOLO was definitely expecting something else from Shaggy there, as Shaggy ends up taking the win with the Skellige. And that's really good news for Shaggy, because it means he can focus on the other decks, which are going to be more downhill than Skellige. Skellige can be an uphill struggle sometimes. So getting that win through nice and early definitely is good for Shaggy, as game number 2 will begin soon. However, game number 2, of course, this coin flip will reverse, and Shaggy will then go on red coin, and ForeverYOLO will be on blue coin instead.
And bear in mind, Shaggy's Nilfgaard is banned, so he's left with his Araka Swarm and his Syndicate, whereas ForeverYOLO, he still has Syndicate, he still has Nilfgaard, and he still has Skellige, which we sort of lose there. So making some kind of thought process. And this is something, when we talked about tournament experience and getting nervous, sequencing your decks, you do get to practice that in qualifiers, don't get me wrong, but it is one of those things that in a tournament setting like this, I think people can kind of mind game themselves a little bit because of how much is at stake. And it's a real skill to be able to read the way that your opponent sequences. Like, if you're familiar with the way that your opponent sequences, that gives you a huge edge. And what that means is that as an opponent, you should try and sequence differently. That you should go against what is expected, or you should sometimes queue expected and sometimes queue not, so you can't be predicted. But I think some players, they don't do that. They don't think about, I should change the way I sequence so that people can't predict me. They just sequence it a certain way, and that's a risk.
I honestly think, I obviously would have to ask ForeverYOLO for clarification, but honestly think that ForeverYOLO just had the back of his mind. He kept saying he had 8 points of reach for that Bear Witcher, and he was probably doing the math there, saying, okay, Bear Witcher is enough, but then he kind of maybe slipped about the idea of the on-crate Longship not giving him that 8 points of reach. Now, we do see game number 2 about to begin here with Shaggy versus ForeverYOLO. Shaggy now going to be queuing the Syndicate, and ForeverYOLO going to be moving on to Nilfgaard. Now, Shaggy, though, he does have the Heat Wave, so he can answer the Masquerade Ball. But even though you can answer Masquerade Ball, it can be difficult to win it against Nilfgaard. If Nilfgaard gets a long round 3, Syndicate can, believe it or not, struggle against it. And for that reason, I think ForeverYOLO, or rather Shaggy, would really like to win round 1 and possibly bleed round number 2 and try get out some of these combo pieces.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that in terms of the tournament at the moment, the prize pool overall, there is $20,000 on the line. Every player that qualified got, I think, $1,000, and then there is a stake per match. So you win this match, there's $1,000 stake. That if you continue on, there's a stake per match. So the quarterfinals, semifinals, finals have different stakes. The prize pool does continue to kind of grow. Now, in terms of leader tier lists, we've got Yennefer versus, is that Cleaver? I think that's Cleaver.
It is Cleaver indeed.
What do you reckon?
I'm going to go with Cleaver. He's a Chad. I'm going with Cleaver.
Spiro is into dwarves.
Yes, I am. We all know that with the whole, Bruver's insane. Definitely a dwarf man. Definitely like me some dwarfs. However, it is important to note that Nilfgaard is a very combo-oriented deck. There are combo pieces. Joachim is a combo piece. Obviously, you have things like Masquerade Ball, which is a combo piece, and things like Coup de Grace and Location, Cantrell, a lot of combos. And if you can break apart those combos, this whole deck can sometimes fall apart. So for that reason, Shaggy really wants to get round control. We do see the early commitment here from the Joachim. Now, if ForeverYOLO ends up losing round 1, this can be devastating, because that is a card you would really like to defend the bleed with. Think of it like an echo card. Committing in round 1 is still a commitment. Obviously, you can play it again, but it means you can no longer use it to defend the bleed as efficiently.
He wanted to play it. He didn't have any proactive plays, right? Like, At the end of the day, if you
Yeah.
look at his hand, he was kind of forced into a corner where he had to play it. Also, for the record, I'm Team Yen. I'm not into dwarves. Apologies to any dwarves in the chat. Like, I'm sure you're
Blasphemy.
beautiful on the inside and out, but you just don't float my boat, you know. But yeah, I think in this situation, it's just a bit unfortunate that he was shoehorned into that position. But it does make winning round one a little bit easier when you have the value of the Joachim. And it did pull a decent target, you know, getting the Assimilate Slave Hunter, not a bad pull.
Yeah, for sure. And again, if ForeverYOLO does end up winning round one, then this really isn't a problem. If he wins round one, then this is great. Then there's no issue at all with it. However, if he loses round one, that's when it starts becoming a bit of an issue. However, with these angels on the board now, and Shaggy's hand doesn't have a spender, that could be big. The only spender he has is that drill, and already ForeverYOLO preemptively started disrupting these crown split pockets to make sure that drill isn't as threatening as it otherwise could have been. So Shaggy might have a difficult time, you know, actually using these coins in round number one here.
Yeah, the thing is, ForeverYOLO doesn't know that, but ForeverYOLO really committing to this round. We've seen Joachim be played twice, so the coup de grace on the first Joachim, spawning the second one. And meanwhile, Shaggy, he's got decent value from these safe crackers. You know, he had a lot of crimes in hand, so he's able to, you know, play them relatively tall for a halfling at any rate. Are you into halflings, by the way, or is it just dwarves?
I mean, what's the difference?
That racism going on here. I'm shocked. I'm shocked and offended.
Shocked and offended.
Over profiting.
Speaking of halflings, these aren't really looking so halflings, as we already have 11-point safecracker. This one looks like a fulling to me, as it is not bad. ForeverYOLO does take the pass. This is big because, again, spending the Joachim coup de grace in round one means if ForeverYOLO does spend it again in round number two, he will not have access to it in round three. So that is a big, big pass. And I don't know if I like this, because looking at Shaggy's hand, he didn't have a spender. ForeverYOLO, I think, would have been able to win round one had he kept going.
I feel like ForeverYOLO still had things he could have played there. Like, if you look at his hand, he can just threaten the poison. You know, Shaggy doesn't know that he doesn't have a follow-up poison, and Shaggy doesn't have spenders, so you could always just threaten the poison onto the 12. Which is pretty decent. You've got a couple emissaries you're probably happy to play in that situation as well. Although maybe you're like, oh, I need to keep the emissaries so I can disrupt the pocket. But, I mean, when you see someone play the pickpocket like that and over-profit so much, surely that tells you something.
Oh, and Shaggy desperately looking for that cleaver in hand. If he doesn't find the cleaver, it's going to be very difficult to bleed with properly. Looking for an ear, you see, he finds there, and a huge sigh of relief on Shaggy's face, as he finds it very, very important to find round two, so you can actually bleed the Nilfgaard player, and that is going to be a threatening hand. We do see the drill and the cleave in hand for Shaggy, and that heatwave to answer the masquerade ball. So Shaggy's hand looking pretty good. There's the Neuromancy as well. Looking at ForeverYOLO's side of the board, though, his hand not looking too bad either, but again, what is
just for the record, it's not a safe cracker. That's Usurper General in disguise. He heard that Spiro liked halflings, and so it was like, I've got a plan here when I transform. But yeah, Shaggy very fortunate to find the Neuromancy and the cleaver, and swiftly opening up with the cleaver there, getting lots of nice crown splitter pockets on the board, as well as that intimidate engine.
And you see ForeverYOLO here right away going to play the masquerade ball, saying if I'm going to have to play my Joachim in round two, I'm going to have to play this masquerade ball anyway, because in round three it won't be very valuable if you have no more aristocrats left. So ForeverYOLO going to play this, going to basically ask Shaggy, do you have the heat wave? And if he does have the heat wave, I guess he's going to say, well, I'll make the trade up now rather than later anyway. It's not the end of the world. So question is, does Shaggy ever take the pass on this, or does he just take the heat wave? Looks like he does take the heat wave and says, I want to keep bleeding. I'm not letting you out that easily.
I think in this situation it's a worthwhile heat wave. Like, occasionally you'll see situations where you're better to save the heat wave and just let the poisons go through. Usually that's in maybe like a short round where there aren't really very good poison targets. But if you have cards that are going to start growing, your intimidate engines, for example, then they are just really lucrative poison targets. And I think it makes sense to get rid of that, especially when you then have the Kurt and the Purify, because it means that now Shaggy can jam Kurt on the Range Row. He can Purify Cleaver because he loves Cleaver. That's why he uses him as a leader. And it means that the follow-up poison isn't a threat.
And this is actually in a bit of a precarious position for ForeverYOLO. It's not easy to answer Cleaver. Like, this deck doesn't have locks. Locks, this is where you really want to have a lock to answer the Cleaver elegantly. However, ForeverYOLO has to rely on poisons here. Do not really want to be using Invocation that. Unfortunately, though, he only has one poison, and the poison he does have gets purified anyway. This code value coming in handy here for Shaggy, as this Cleaver may end up forcing ForeverYOLO to use that Invocation, otherwise might have to let it be, and you don't really want that Cleaver to be sticking on the board and overstaying its welcome. So ForeverYOLO got some difficult decisions here. How exactly is he going to deal with this Cleaver?
You can invocate it. But I mean, he must be feeling pretty unlucky at the moment, not having lots in hand and having that option. If you're going to invocate it, you feel okay with letting it grow a little bit, but when he can use it as a spender to spawn Cleaver's muscles, you're maybe better to, if you're going to invocate it anyway, you're maybe better to do it sooner.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just a engine; it's also a spender, and a very good one at that. Not only does it convert 4 coins to 5 points, but it also allows you to keep that those crown spitters going for the drill in case you try end up blocking them. We do see Shaggy now. He's going to go right for the Siggy, and that will get him all the way up to a Horde 9. That drill looking very scary, and out comes the Flying Redanian as well. So this is putting ForeverYOLO on the spot. How exactly is ForeverYOLO going to defend this bleed? If he plays the Joachim again, that makes his short round 3 so much worse. He's going to go for the Roderick, it seems, and that is going to be pulling out the Vigo. Let's see what Vigo ends up showing.
ForeverYOLO, he needs to start committing some value onto the board at this point. He did open with Masquerade Ball, but because of the heat wave, he's really been playing quite slowly up until this stage. And Shaggy, he's sitting there with 9 coins in the bank. Like, he has a lot of money going on, and if you convert that into points with a tunnel drill, for example, that's pretty devastating. So ForeverYOLO needed to start doing something. He's able to disrupt the pocket with the Duchess, with his Duchess Informant. He's used that to disrupt the pocket, which has helped to stop the Cleaver engine. But at the same time, he had to do something there. And I think at this point, Shaggy is still probably okay with playing the tunnel drill. Although maybe he needs to make a new pocket.
I must say, it was a nice turn for Shaggy to play that Neuromancy on, because it does now eliminate one of the best targets that ForeverYOLO could have used leader ability on. So, getting those leader targets out of your hand as quickly as possible. Very good against this double cross list, as ForeverYOLO is starting to run out of things to end up leading. And now we see the drill coming down, also blocking the melee row, meaning that the Usurper is now a half-bricked card. So he really is actually a halfling, it seems, as this Usurper is potentially half-bricked, with this melee row being completely clogged up from Shaggy right now.
And I really love this tactic. Shaggy using his coins with the Cleaver. This is where he utilized the spend to create a new pocket of Cleaver's muscles for the tunnel drill. So he made his own pocket and then used his leader ability there to gain the coins to spend and to kill I think it was the Brathens.
Ooh, that is not the best leader ability I've ever seen for ForeverYOLO. You can't take the Philippa. Assault is just 4 points. Maybe some assimilate value, and then again the shakedown also not looking too great either. Not a good leader ability at all for ForeverYOLO. And is it just Shaggy doesn't actually play Jacques, I believe, in his list, which is actually quite heads up deck building here for Shaggy. Perhaps eliminating the Jacques specifically for the Nilfgaard mirror or the Nilfgaard matchup, as Nilfgaard really likes Jacques for their leader ability. And when you don't have Jacques, Nilfgaard doesn't have great targets to get leader value on, as we see here.
And this is something that Shaggy's really managed to kind of heads up play. He played his Neuromancy, he played his Heat Wave onto the Masquerade Ball, which is great, but also took it out of his hand. And it's put him into a situation where actually, nothing in that hand was really going to be very good for the double cross. You often see double cross triggered at 4 cards because you see most of what they have in hand. And it turns out that most of what Shaggy has in hand doesn't work for ForeverYOLO. Now it's 38 points to 24, like a big mountain there for the Nilfgaardian, but managed to clear space on that front row, so Usurper can be an option.
Shaggy's saying nope. He is going to spend once again the Cleaver, and this is what makes Cleaver so annoying. If you can't deal with it, not only is it an engine, but it's also a great spend, and it can just put so many issues for you. As ForeverYOLO now, looking at his Usurper saying, what am I supposed to do with this card?
It's a difficult one, because we talked about Invocation earlier and said maybe he can use it on the Cleaver, but in the end he opted to use it on the Tunnel Drill, I believe. So saved it until that point. But that Cleaver more than paid for itself with how many muscles it managed to spawn. And it's just a situation where Shaggy's in a very comfortable position here. He's managed to bleed the round. He's managed to block the row. And he still maybe feels like he can play a couple more of these cards, although they are slow. So now he's at the point where he starts to play slow. So this is where you start thinking about passing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that. I mean, Shaggy. Let's see. I mean, I know you love a good final. This, I guess it's going to be hard for Shaggy to final, as he doesn't really have that much left in hand. But ForeverYOLO, he's in some trouble if he is forced to play the counter out of this round. There really isn't a whole lot left for ForeverYOLO for round 3. He's kind of played all his best cards at this point. That being said, though, Shaggy's also spent quite a bit. He doesn't have a whole lot left himself. He only has the gourd, which admittedly is a big card, and Sal without many coins in round 3 could be awkward. You see, Shaggy isn't going to pass just yet. He smells blood, and he's going to go for it.
I mean, if you're ForeverYOLO, how would you have closed that gap in one card? You'd have had to go for Cantarella Joachim, right? Like, you're not getting it with Coup de Grace, you're not getting it with Experimental Remedy. So you're in a position where you'd have to have played the Cantarella, and he's still in that same position, right? And the Cantarella isn't necessarily going to equate to 17 points.
Just going to interrupt you there. I did miss something here. ForeverYOLO, actually, this is actually a very interesting player. ForeverYOLO took the Alchemist, or not the Alchemist, but rather the Viper Witcher there, to try put bleed on to the Dutch Informant so that it would die at the end of Shaggy's turn to open up space for his Usurper. But Shaggy ended up playing that Shakedown to boost it up and thus deny it from actually dying. So that still blocks the Usurper there. So interesting play there from both these players. Shaggy doing excellent to spot that and making sure that this Dutch Informant does not end up dying to the bleed.
And the thing is, ForeverYOLO didn't really close the gap, though, in that play, right? In his last play, he played the Experimental Remedy. He didn't really close the gap. So it gave Shaggy space there that he could play the Assault, right? He can play the Assault. He can deal the damage quite comfortably. He's not worried about the gap getting any smaller, but he's also, increasing his purse. He's got more money in the bank now, and that gives him more carryover for the final round. And he's got enough money that if, ForeverYOLO does kill something in one turn, that he can click on the next turn. And he also has then, 8 points of theft for Philippa.
Man, I'm looking at this board set just wondering how on earth is ForeverYOLO going to do these points? This Usurper not looking too amazing. And I mean, at this point, ForeverYOLO looking at the graveyard thinking, yep, he's going for the Cantarella now. That I don't think is even going to be enough to get ahead. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it's enough. It's going to pull out a Tunnel Drill, which isn't really a big threat for ForeverYOLO. Here it comes. There's a Tunnel Drill off the Joachim. Not enough. Shaggy still has the option of passing if he wants to. He could play a Philippa still for a lot of points. I guess he'd only be able to steal a 5 though. Shaggy do some math here.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything big enough to steal. He could only steal the 5. He'd be wasting some coins on the all-in. So maybe instead of stealing 5, you take the 4, carry over to the next round. At this point, you've disrupted ForeverYOLO's strategy anyway.
Let's see what Shaggy decides.
And he's got a second
Philippa. Playing Philippa would play for 13 points minus the 1 on the Thirsty Dame. So it'll be a 12-point play for Shaggy to end up making. He's currently up already by 5 points. So they'll put Shaggy up by 17 points. And ForeverYOLO, I mean, he could do it, but he'd have to spend both Joachim and Usurp. And then ForeverYOLO really has nothing left for round 3. So maybe Shaggy does go for it. He does decide to go for it anyway, saying he's going to force out ForeverYOLO's last 2 cards. And if it's not good enough, he'll just 2-0. And if it is good enough, well, he still has the gourd left for a short round 3. So let's see what ForeverYOLO is going to do. He's going to have to play everything. And even then, it might not even be that easy.
Yeah, no, I love the choice there by Shaggy to go for that. If we look at the deck, there's nothing particularly spicy going on there's nothing spicy going on in ForeverYOLO's deck. He's got his best card is Van Morlehelm Cupbearer, and he's got a single Fangs and a couple of Nausicaa Sergeants. Those are the only cards that aren't spies or special cards. So that's what your Joachim's going to pull. Your alternative is your Coup de Grace. There we go. Your Coup de Grace, the Informant to make space. If you feel like the pull's not going to be that good anyway, it makes space for your Usurper General, so then you can play him at 12. And it gets him ahead.
The question is, though, what does ForeverYOLO have left? Because looking at his deck, he has nothing but bronzes and a Cupbearer, and that does not bode well for someone that's top decking into a Neuromancy, which does mean Shaggy has guaranteed access to that gourd, which is going to play for an excess of at least 12 to 13, maybe even more points. ForeverYOLO, he is in a bad looking spot, and this is one of the big weaknesses of Nilfgaard, is that if its combo pieces are bled out and you don't really have much left, then Nilfgaard is not a deck that's good in these short rounds like this where you just don't have any juice left.
See it on his face, like he just looks stressed. He just looks, nervous and stressed. And when you see players holding their head like that, it kind of gives you a little bit of an indication of where their mindset is at. Whereas if you look at Shaggy, he looks chill. He's just like, I'll just go sit here, play cards.
Shaggy
he doesn't look like he's bothered. Is he bothered? No, I don't think so.
I think Shaggy is very, very comfortable with where he is right now. Whereas ForeverYOLO, he now has to reverse sweep. I believe that last deck of Shaggy's will be a Ruckus Swarm. So ForeverYOLO is going to have to beat a Ruckus Swarm 3 times in a row, or he will be eliminated for this tournament. And it's always, I think the thing that's stressful for new players to the open scene is that it's the first time on camera, on a big stage, and they kind of want to, they want to prove themselves. They want to say, I'm a player you should keep your eye out for. And it's always It's always something that you want to be able to prove. Shaggy, people know Shaggy's good at the game. People know Tailbot's excellent at Gwent. They don't have much more to prove, but obviously they still want to win. Whereas people like ForeverYOLO, obviously newcomers to the pro scene or the Gwent Open scene, really have a lot they want to show people.
And I think it's hard because a lot of the time on players' debuts, they choke. Yeah. I don't mean it in a bad way, but it just happens. And you have to have that resilience to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and try again. And you'll see a lot of newcomers, they'll qualify for one event, and then that'll be them gone forever. Whereas other players, you'll notice, some players manage it. Some players will dust themselves off, and then they'll become regular fixtures in competitive events. We see, I can't think of an example off the head, but we have those kind of names, like we've got Colomon, we've got Tailbot, who plays regularly. Cams is a common name, Gravesh as well. Then there's Red Rain, we see him a lot as well. These people, they'll have been in that position in their first event. They'll have choked. I mean, TLG players were freaking renowned for choking in Open 1 in Season 1. Season 1 TLG players would just show up and then they get 3-0'd in the quarterfinals. They would bugger off home. But now they've kind of come back. They've practiced with their team, and now we see TLG quite regularly at tournaments. And it's because the players that we have that level of resilience, and they have that support. So when they lose an event, yeah, it sucks, but they have people to fall back on and support them, and they have people to help them move forward from that. And that's a huge thing, I think, in Gwent, is having support from the scene and being able to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and be like, right, let's jam another 300 games a ladder.
I love the way you put that. Just headbutt play, as we are going to still. ForeverYOLO is not out of it just yet. He can still make the comeback. It is not easy. It's not easy. Reverse sweeping is not something that can be easily done. However, ForeverYOLO is going to have to do it if he wants to still stay in this tournament, as he will now have to beat Shaggy's Ruckus Swarm 3 times in a row. The question is, how good are his odds against it? First thing is, Skellige is decent against the likes of Ruckus Swarm, so there is that. What?
Just don't say that he's got an advantage because he gets to pick which
no, I wasn't going to say that. But speaking of which, I wasn't going to say it, Jaggers. But speaking of which, now you got me riled up. So you know what? I must say, ForeverYOLO does have one small advantage under his bag. He gets to choose the coin flip for the rest of the series, so he can decide exactly what he cues on what coin. I know Jaggers loves hearing me say that.
It's not an advantage. It's just not an advantage being able to be 2-0 down. No one's like, oh, I wish I could start this series 2-0 down. Speaking of Skellige, though, you said Skellige does have good odds against Ruckus Swarm, and that is exactly what ForeverYOLO has opted to queue into as we go into this game 3. Shaggy, of course, playing his Ruckus Swarm list.
Indeed, we do see that Shaggy does have both the Conquerors in hand. Do want to make sure you don't have those in hand, though, as Shaggy end up drawing all the brick cards, as he does end up fixing the hand a little bit there. We do see the Maxi in hand, some more consistency to this deck. This is a very consistent deck. Damn, you have Maxi, you got a Neuromancy, you got the Portal, you got the Thinning with the Riders. So much consistency, and Shaggy is going to be able to put on some pressure in this round 1. However, that being said, Skellige, one thing that makes Skellige so good this matchup is they have so many sources of random pings and random damage. Things like Marauders, things like Harold the Cripple, things like Hunters and whatnot can do a very excellent job at controlling the board, killing those swarm units, and making it very difficult for the swarm player to actually overwhelm the board, which they typically want to be doing for their strategy.
Mm-hmm. And Wild Outriders is one of these cards where you need dominance for them to thin. So it's a card that if you're Shaggy, you want to play it before your opponent starts to jam cards. Because Ruckus Swarm, it doesn't go that tall, right? It's not like a dominance list where you have those 10, 12, 13-point bodies and you can easily thin your Wild Hunt Riders. Wild Hunt Riders, they consider themselves, when they consider dominance, they're like, oh yeah, I'm quite dominant. That's what I'm into. So you can jam them round 1 and it's fine, and that's exactly what he's opted to do.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at things as they stand now, Shaggy going to end up using that Bruiser, moving that ship to the range row and set it off into the Skellige Storm, as it will no longer be a threat any longer. And now Shaggy going to decide whether or not he wants to commit the Portal in round number 1. Now remember, Shaggy is on blue coins, so you got to kind of find a balance. You don't want to commit too much at the round, but you also can't commit too little if your intentions are to win the round. So Shaggy going to have to figure out a balance here of how much he needs to commit to win this round number 1, if he wants to win round 1, of course. as he does have the portal, which should give him some leverage to do so if he wants to actually commit it early on.
It's not a card you necessarily have to commit early, though, because it doesn't... Like, it's not something that puts engines on the board or that you need to wait for a certain moment to be like, oh, now is the opportune moment to play Portal. Like, you could play Portal now. You could play Portal as your last card in the round, and it still plays for the same kind of value.
Yeah, for sure. As we now see Shaggy going to take that Maxi. I don't actually know whether he shuffled it or not. I didn't get a good look at his draws. It doesn't tell you on the observer whether or not it was shuffled. But he does end up playing the Maxi. He wants to get some insight into the deck and figure out how his top decks are looking like. Now, one thing that is a bit awkward, though, is if you don't play the portal in round 1, you have to carry through the bricks into future rounds, which can be a little bit awkward. But I think Shaggy would love to be able to win round 1 cheaply and then keep that portal to pressure ForeverYOLO within maybe round number 2, as ForeverYOLO now going to just develop some more of his warriors in the grave.
You can maximize the value of Maxi, right? Because she shows you what you're going to draw into. So you know exactly where the bricks are. And you can be like, oh, okay, the bricks are here and here. So I'm going to draw into X, Y, Z. Therefore, I should play Portal round 1. Or, oh, the bricks are here and here. I can mulligan them and I'm not going to see them again. So I can hold Portal for round 2 or round 3. Like, that's where she shines. And that's where Portal becomes less of a risk in this sort of deck, where you can have a look at what's coming and make a plan for how you utilize your thinning.
Yeah, for sure. As Shaggy can also, if he wants to shuffle the deck, he could put one of the bricks to the very bottom of the deck and, of course, never have to draw it ever again. As ForeverYOLO now going to play the Gutting Slash, going to be playing the Reach game, it seems for now, and ask Shaggy, what do you want to commit? I want to see something big from you before I let you out. You're not getting out of the round that easily. I want to see some commitment. As Shaggy looking at his hand, thinking what exactly he wants to commit. Looks like it's going to be the Nest for now, trying to get some more bodies on the board, maybe threaten that Talisman and try force out a pass either with Talisman or maybe even Chimera, which is enabled, as we do see by the Red Glow, which is a new feature was added to Gwent, telling you that the Adrenaline cards are ready to get their full value, with the Chimera now being able to be played next turn.
Yeah, that card's just feeling angry. I don't know why. It makes me think like the card is angry, but it's ready to go. And I really like that feature that they've added to help people understand how to play Adrenaline and those kind of things. Just more visual kind of aids for people, I think, is going to help beginners in general. And yep, opting to play the Chimera. I think now is a great time to play it over the Bone Talisman, just because you have so many Ruckus Swarms stacked on the front row that you can get the full value from the consume like that. Whereas Bone Talisman, it does much of the same thing. You know, it doesn't have a body, but it boosts both rows. But I think Chimera is slightly more situational.
Yeah, Chimera is less committal, I think, than the Talisman. However, the question is, how good are these Talismans going to even be if your board is going to be fully controlled? However, that being said, the question is, what exactly is ForeverYOLO going to do here? He does have some awkward cards in hand. Obviously, you do see the Donut is a bit awkward. You do see the Invader a bit slow. You're going to take the Invader for now. I guess threaten reach with the Morkfog. Does Morkfog actually threaten reach? I'm not sure. That is going to be a little bit of points he needs. How much can he do with Morkfog? 7?
Morkfog, not that big. I think Chimera is what, like a 5 or a 6? So yeah, it would maybe be a 7 or so.
Wait, does ForeverYOLO even have the reach? I don't know if he did. I guess Donut
would have been enough.
Donut would have been enough. Donut, there is 2 Bloodthirsts, so the Donut does threaten the reach for now, so looks like Shaggy going to play the Talisman, and that is going to be 20 points that ForeverYOLO needs to threaten here in 2 cards if he wants to keep going. Donut does play for 9, but looks like he says, I don't have enough after that, and Shaggy gets to win round 1 whilst keeping the portal for round number 2, which he could use to try thin the deck as well as puts ForeverYOLO under a little bit of pressure.
We're having some slight technical issues with the stream, and the stream is frozen. Not entirely sure what's going on, if whether they can hear us or not. But I guess we just continue casting as if nothing has gone wrong. Okay. You're currently getting blamed for it, by the way.
Okay.
That goddamn South African internet.
1 second.
Oh, they can hear us. Right, we gotta do this like from an audio standpoint. You're just gonna have you're gonna have a voice over. It's gonna be like radio. You know, like when you watch football on the radio, we've got to be explicit.
Yes, of course. Well, explicitly speaking, Shaggy seems to have drawn into the Spontaneous Evolution as well as that Crimson Curse. He does have to be very careful that last mulligan, as he could end up bricking the portal. Luckily for Shaggy, he does not end up bricking the portal, finds a second evolution, and let's see if Shaggy is going to go for the bleed in round number 2. He does end up going for it, plays the totem, and ForeverYOLO needs to respect this 14-point play. For now, 7 points, but it will be 14 points soon, as the second Conqueror will get thinned out of the deck very shortly after.
Shaggy knew. I feel like Shaggy might have shuffled his deck there because he kind of hesitated on that mulligan. Whereas if you've seen the deck, you kind of know what's coming. Or maybe he wasn't sure if Spontaneous Evolution was better. But bear in mind, Portal, nowadays, for those of you who are unaware, it pulls one card, and then after 3 turns, it pulls the second card. They don't both show up at the same time. So you do have to kind of take that into your consideration when you play it.
Yep, that is true. It does have a little bit of a delayed fuse, I guess you could say, as Shaggy now going to invest the leader charge, getting that Insectoid on the melee row to play the evolution and start getting the swarm going. Now, ForeverYOLO has to start controlling this. He has got the Marauder in hand. Marauder might end up clearing out these rows. Let's see how many pings it does end up going for.
ForeverYOLO is forever unlucky at the moment. Yeah, I told you.
Only one. Not ideal at all for ForeverYOLO. That is good news for Shaggy. Gets to keep most of his swarm, and ForeverYOLO might be under some pressure. He will have the ice for a lot of reach, but that is some points that Shaggy's starting to amount here. Could be awkward.
Yeah, the portal there triggering, and after 3 turns, it's summoned the last card. So, that's the 3rd turn. The Anel Conqueror comes out of the graveyard to get 2 of those on the board, a huge amount of tempo. And bear in mind, there's a lot of Arrakis going on. So each play Shaggy makes from here on in is likely to be a tempo play. And ForeverYOLO needs to start respecting that. His problem is he doesn't really have a good way to squash bugs, right? Like, often with Skellige, you want to have things like your Raiders, for example. They give you 2 points of damage. You can quite easily squash a bug. The Ancrate Marauder as well, really nice for that, but unlucky in this situation. And yeah, ForeverYOLO now jamming a great sword, or a not so great sword, I think, in this situation.
The Morgvarg, though, does give ForeverYOLO a lot of points. That's a 10-point play, plus the extra 5 on the Great Sword. So that's a 15-point play, which does give ForeverYOLO just enough reach if Shaggy were to pass. So let's see what Shaggy opts to go for here, as we do see Triss coming down. No Talisman, unfortunately, and didn't see the greatest options. Does find the Natural Selection, which I think is good enough for Shaggy perhaps getting to kill that Greatsword. And for now, ForeverYOLO falling very far behind, needs to start getting something going. That Iced is a lot of points, but do you really want to spend your Iced in round 2 just to defend a bleed and not even get a card advantage from it? So what exactly is ForeverYOLO going to do here? I don't think Iced is enough yet. Well, it's kind of close to enough almost, but he really doesn't want to play Ice unless it gets him ahead.
No,
so
he
let's
really
see exactly what he wants to do.
Decide on his target. And Morgvarg, I feel like you're not going to get a lot of better Morgvargs in this situation because the deck doesn't go that tall. If you kill that bug, you're dealing, what you say, 10 points of damage with the Morgvarg, which is nice. But instead, opting for the Skjordal and choosing to damage, well, we'll see what he chooses to damage. The Ancrate Conqueror. Anel Conqueror, sorry, not Ancrate.
It's not quite a Skellige card as Shaggy now. Shaggy's got to do some thinking here. I think ForeverYOLO wants to say, go on, commit more. Once you commit enough, then I'll feel better becoming Ice. But for now, Shaggy has to figure out whether he wants to play into this Ice or not. There is Bloodthirst too. Shaggy does not want to play into it. He's going to take the pass instead, and ForeverYOLO now has to do a lot of points, which I don't think is enough outside of Ice. So you're going to see Ice leader ability come out here. Unless Ice, of course, draws the Utah, then it plays for 16 points, which would be enough to preserve leader ability if it draws Utah, of course.
That's a high roll. I think maybe in this situation, you're always forced into a situation where you want to keep Iced but use leader ability, because that's also an option as well. Potentially use your leader plus your Donna or something along those lines. Or your
use leader, the Ice becomes so much worse anyway.
Yeah, I know.
I think the consideration basically is either go 2 cards down or spend the Ice leader ability, and that is going to be a big decision to make. 2 cards down means that Shaggy will have double final say in round 3, as ForeverYOLO has to figure out exactly what is the course of action.
If Ice pulls a special card, then you have to discard Donar or Morgvarg, which isn't really great either.
Looks
and yeah,
like
so he's opting
ForeverYOLO
for Donar. Is he going to go 2 cards down? That seems to be his way.
That does seem to be the play. Says Ice is worth more than card advantage, it seems, as he does opt to play both the Donar and the Morgvarg and instead preserve that Ice. So things are not looking bad for Shaggy. However, Ice, as we all know, he has a lot of points. And even a card down, I've seen Skellige win some games with Ice still. It is a very strong card. Do not underestimate the power of Ice.
Right, and here come the draws. So we've got Turgvi, Ancrate, and Blood Eagle for ForeverYOLO. Meanwhile, Chimera, Natural Selection, Arrakis Nest, and Yennefer for Shaggy. Shaggy, bear in mind, he still has 4 leader charges in pocket. And it's tricky because Skellige doesn't go, Monsters, it doesn't go that tall. So your leader ability, the option of 12 points of damage, you're not going to get 12 points of damage, let's be real.
For sure, definitely not going to get the full value. And that also, Turkey, you're not going to get much value either. There really isn't high base strength units. So this Turkey and this Ice looking questionable to say the least in this round 3, as Shaggy still has almost full leader ability, still has the Yennefer. That is a very strong looking hand for Shaggy. Whereas ForeverYOLO, also a strong looking hand, but again, his cards don't really do a whole lot in this situation. This may be close because Ice is worth a lot, but it's going to be interesting to see. Let's see. Here comes the Herald of the Cripple. That's a lot of points as well, which could be thrown into that Blood Moon there, and that Veil could end up protecting it from that bleed potentially.
And especially if he resurrects something like the Twist Second Vader, puts a second Veil in there just to add more, targets to soak up the blood. That sounds such a grim mental image. Just soak up the blood. It's like.
I mean, that's exactly what they're going to do potentially. Ooh, he decides against
the Raider.
I guess ForeverYOLO is saying he has to Herald to win. Maybe ForeverYOLO is saying he's in a bad spot. He needs all the pinks just hit the Herald of the Cripple anyway. And he says, I need every point that I can get. I'm going to take the Raider and just hope that all the bleed hits the Herald of the Cripple because this is not a good spot for me to be in. So he decides against Invader and going to take the risk of going for the Invader, which is more points, but more risk.
Yeah, but the first ping there, I believe, did just hit the Raider because he went from 5 to 3, so he's taking the 2 points of damage as he is bleeding. So far, forever unlucky, maybe a better name. We'll have to wait and see. It's tricky because I think this is going to be a close game, but it's going to be a close game because ForeverYOLO went 2 cards down in round 2.
Oh, finds the... Which one's actually... I actually don't know which one's better to discard here. Turkey doesn't really get much value. Takes the discard onto the Bear Witch, however, as that is going to be a nice big Ice coming down here. And no Tall Punish for Shaggy. There is no Heat Wave in hand, unfortunately for Shaggy. He did not draw his Neuromancy or his Heat Wave. So this Yuta will go on, or this Greater will go on rather uncontested. That's a very big point gap. So this could be... I know how much you say it, how much you hate it when I say it, Jaggers, but this might be close.
Yeah, maybe 5 points in it. Bear in mind also the Swarm not that big for Shaggy, because ForeverYOLO playing cards that play other cards, like Ice, for example, triggers a lot of cards. Herald triggers a lot of cards. So the Yennefer not quite as hugely impactful as she can be. With that said, 43 to 19, we have a Yennefer, we have a bug. Here's the boost, 41 to 54, plus the Chimera.
ForeverYOLO wins by 1.
But the bleed.
But the bleed. But the bleed. Wait, is it a tie? No, it's not a tie, is it? It's a tie. It's a tie. It's actually a tie. We go again. It seems ForeverYOLO will hold on for dear life and will force the game to be replayed, which is now going to be, I guess, game number, 3.5 about to begin.
I need more beer. I hate ties. I hate them so much. They honestly trigger me. Like the one thing in the world that triggers me is a tie during a Gwent event. Even my nice red tie? Okay, you're yeah, I'm like a bull. You're right. No, your red tie is quite nice. I'm not triggered by your nice red tie. That is a valid point. Oh dear. I mean, it was close, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it definitely was close. So close, in fact, that it will be a tie, and that means we will see a replay. Same coins, same deck, same everything, as these players will once again go on to either take the win or take the loss, as Shaggy 2-0 up in this series, 1 win away from taking the first round, whereas ForeverYOLO needs to get something on the board here, needs to get some points going, as he is trading behind 0-2.
And I think, like, Skellige is favored in this matchup, in this situation. I feel like, considering ForeverYOLO was a card down, so remember that. ForeverYOLO was a card down going into round 3. So if he'd had that card, he would have won easily. And I'm wondering, if maybe it came down to bleeds. Maybe if he'd instead of taking the 2 damage, if he picked the veteran, then you'd have to go back and look at it. Yeah. That's one of those situations. You'll find a point somewhere if you go back and look at it. Yeah, we basically reset the whole thing.
Yeah, those bleeds weren't exactly amazing for ForeverYOLO's side of things. He definitely could have got a bit more points on that Veil, but unfortunately for him, it will end up not being quite good enough. Well, not being quite bad enough either, as I would say, honestly, ForeverYOLO probably feeling better about that tie than Shaggy, due to the fact that it is a Skellige match. If he can go into this game again and say, you know what, let's just collect our thoughts. This is a good matchup for me. and I should be able to win the second time around. So let's see what ends up happening on the second go, as this match will be replayed. Same coins, same everything.
Yeah, ForeverYOLO basically hanging in there by the skin of his teeth in this first series. Third game hits a draw, currently 2-0 up to Shaggy. So for those of you just tuning in, Shaggy's currently 2-0 up. He's about to play, using my psychic abilities, Arrakis on blue versus Skellige on red. As we do replay the whole series, same coin flip, same decks, yada, yada, yada. It just takes a little bit of time to set up because I think they have to reset the tournament platform.
For sure. So let's take a look and see what happens here, as they are, I guess, resetting the platform. I'm not sure how the platform ends up dealing with ties, but it looks like we will be waiting for this to reset. And yeah, I mean, if ForeverYOLO does end up taking this win, he will have to go on the next game being on, I believe he will go on to, what coin was it on this one? This was ForeverYOLO on
Blue.
red, I believe.
No, red, sorry, red. Red. ForeverYOLO's
he'll
on red,
go
Shaggy's
on
on blue.
blue next game if he wins this one, of course, which we'll have to see how that. I mean, what do you think ForeverYOLO's chances are 3 times against a Ruckus Swarm?
I think it's tough, especially against some of the other decks like Skellige. You know, I think he can win against Skellige. But I think, what have you got left then? Nilfgaard and oh no, banned Nilfgaard, sorry. So
Nilfgaard was banned, yeah. He's got, I believe, Syndicate, which is
oh no, he's got
easy.
Nilfgaard. No, his Nilfgaard isn't banned, so it's Nilfgaard and Syndicate.
Oh,
right?
Shaggy's banned. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, because it's Shaggy's banned. So it's Nilfgaard and Syndicate, and there, I don't know. I mean, given I'm going to sound so shady saying this, but I just think given the way that we've seen both players play, I feel like Shaggy is playing a lot cleaner. And given that it's an uphill battle for ForeverYOLO in that he has to win 3 times, I don't necessarily see it happen.
Yeah, getting a win through with that Syndicate is going to be hard, because Syndicate, as strong as Syndicate is, doesn't have a great matchup against the likes of a Ruckus Swarm. A Ruckus Swarm drill is not really enough to save Syndicate, and it's not easy at all. So ForeverYOLO has his work cut out for him, as we are going to see the replay now happen, where Shaggy now versus ForeverYOLO, game number 3.5, I guess you could say. 3.5 here, as Shaggy now going to be once again leading things off on blue coin.
It always makes me smile that Shaggy and his he's Shaggy Nuts, and then he's the Nutcracker. That's his little handle. I don't know why that one always just makes me laugh. So both players playing Shoop. One of them has arrow through his head, and one of them is Team Bunny.
Well, arrow through a head. I can't say that I'm going to put my hopes in someone that has an arrow through their head. So I don't know about that one.
No, in that case, I'm Team Bunny as well. So I do agree with you. How do you feel about these hands?
These hands, though, I mean, Shaggy does have the Crimson Curse, no portal, though. Again, I'm not sure if Shaggy really wants to commit the portal in round 1. Shaggy would love to win round 1 again efficiently. Shaggy did have a pretty good time last game. He won round 1 without committing much. This time around, doesn't have much Swarm. If you look at his hand, he doesn't have much Swarm here, and doesn't have much payoff either. So not really a whole lot that Shaggy has going for him. I guess he could maybe play the Crimson Curse to try get some kind of points going, but not sure if Shaggy is really comfortable playing that on round 1 on blue coins. So we'll have to see what he ends up doing here, as he is going to start off with the Whisper's Tribute, trying to get some of that Swarm with that nest, and putting a total of 6 bodies on the board there, I believe.
It's a really nice place to just jam bodies on the board, especially against Skellige, because Skellige, you know, we saw it in the previous round. They have ways of playing multiple bodies in one turn. It's not quite Arrakis levels of bodies, but it's annoying, because if you're playing cards like Yennefer, which boosts the whole board, then you're getting less value from Yennefer than you would in other matchups. And this Brockbar Hunter especially annoying, and we saw him quickly being selected for death. Natural selection playing its course. Turns out he wasn't quite as virulent or potent as the other hunters on the world. He did not manage to reproduce and continue his lineage, and he is now dead.
Yep, he did die indeed. I mean, that is going to be great value for Shaggy to answer, as he also ends up dealing with the on-crate longship in similar fashion to the first game, with that Bruiser being able to move it to the Ranger. Of course, this longship is Mayday locked. Once again, though, Shaggy doesn't have any ways to close out this round quite as elegantly as the first game. However, ForeverYOLO not finding his Blood Eagle could be a bit of a bad situation for him, as we see the Greatsword now will get locked from that Dorogaray. And Dorogaray, such a nice buff he got recently, along with all the other locks, making him actually see quite a bit of play as a nice neutral filler gold card for some decks. 6 points plus a lock on a 6 provision card. Not too bad.
Yeah, and as the meta's progressed, there's not as much because so Locks used to be really good. Then Veil came out, and Locks just died a death, basically, and stopped being a thing. But as things have kind of shifted forward a little bit away from so much Veil, it means that Dorgray and other lock cards have had an opportunity to shine, and especially when they're getting these like small just buffs, so the body is a little bit more valuable. It means that you actually get a huge amount of value out of them.
Ooh, very, very early heater there from Shaggy, taking the heater onto the Raider there, trying to perhaps deny a little bit of carry value from ForeverYOLO, making that Herald the Cripple Resurrection a little bit worse as that Raider gets answered. Now, looking at Shaggy's hand, he does have a Dead Conqueror in hand, so he's already making it quite difficult to contest this round fully. And there really isn't that much Swarm on the board to get value from this Chimera. Shaggy may have to commit I know he's going to have to commit something if he wants to win this round. ForeverYOLO, I don't think he's going to let Shaggy out too easily. However, again, ForeverYOLO also being a bit of an awkward hand, right? No Blood Eagle, dead Skirtle, dead War of Clans enabled, but other than that, this hand is also looking quite iffy for ForeverYOLO. There's
a hunter for the War of Clans, so it's not completely over. But if he does that, it gives it doomed, right? So you have to then be aware that Herald losing another target. So that's something that you maybe wanted for Herald, because the hunter's really nice for squashing bugs. And if you play it now, you're going to have some kind of issues. So ForeverYOLO's hand is quite awkward. And honestly, I think ForeverYOLO is a little bit scared of Shaggy at this point, given how the past few sets have gone.
With ForeverYOLO now going to play the reach game, it seems, and holding on for that Tovi, giving him exactly enough reach onto the likes of that Dara Garay. So it seems like ForeverYOLO will play the reach game, and Shaggy going to just play the Chimera. Going to play it only for 8 points. Not the biggest Chimera I've ever seen, but not bad either. Now we do see an 18-point gap. ForeverYOLO has to contest 19 points in 2 cards if he wants to take this round.
And if we think he has 11 in Turkey, so he needs 8, 9, something like that. I don't do maths. Don't do maths. No, exactly.
I mean, he takes the pass. Yeah, he doesn't want to do any more bluffing. He knows what happens when he threatens too much reach. Shaggy is known to take those cheeky passes. So ForeverYOLO not going to play this bluffing game again. It seems he's learned his lesson, as he will end up taking the pass here and gearing up to defend the bleed in round number 2 once again. And Shaggy with 2 conquerors in hand, we all know what's going to end up getting mulliganed here.
I think he's going to mulligan Triss. Yes, quite an easy decision in that situation. And it's nice in some ways to draw both the Anils, because it means that you can just mulligan them and you're not going to draw into them. So you're kind of preserving the hand. No Maxi so far. So Shaggy not really sure what's going on in his hand. But opting to, again, continue to bleed the round, opening the same way as he did in the previous game with the portal, pulling 1 Anil Conqueror from the deck. How do you feel about Shaggy's hand for bleeding?
He doesn't really have that much payoff, right? No Yennefer, no Talisman, so I don't think he can fully commit to a bleed as last game. It's not looking like a hand that can fully commit to. Then again, the Crimson Curse can be a nice card. These Anil Conquerors, though, Veil is going to make it a little bit awkward for ForeverYOLO. It would be a great target for Turkvi. However, no way to do that, as we do see War of Clans are going to be resurrecting the... He's going to take the Hunter? Possibly going to take the Hunter. No, he takes the Invade instead, goes for the tempo, tries to get ahead of Shaggy, and that will put him exactly 1 point ahead. However, Shaggy doesn't really care. It seems he's going to start swarming the board and get those insectoids swarming for that Ruckus Behemoth.
Yep, and he's got more insectoids in bank. He's enabled his Chimera once again. He's also got the Spontaneous Evolution to continue swarming. Like, he's got actually quite a solid hand here for a bleed. Crimson Curse not looking so hot when there's a Veil unit on the board, but having seen that get resurrected, he's not so scared of it in round 3, and we did see him play that. But here comes Ironcrate Marauder. Is it going to high roll
this time? Oh, this time it hits 3. This time it actually does end up cleaning house and killing 3 of those insectoids. That's a very good value there onto that Marauder. This time definitely cooperating a lot more.
Yeah, I know. This is ForeverYOLO's now Forever Lucky. I mean, last game it hit a toll unit twice and they killed 1 bug, so not really hot.
Yeah, only 1. This time it killed 3.
Yeah, I think that is value, and it's going to make it harder for Shaggy to try and get ForeverYOLO into that same position as the last game, where ForeverYOLO ended up down. Right, he ended up down a card, but the Crimson Curse there hitting the wrong target for Shaggy, hitting the 1 in 3 chance and hitting the Tursek Invader. So
ForeverYOLO seems to be, as you said, becoming forever lucky now, as that Invader will end up now playing for 8 points and possibly more, as we do see ForeverYOLO going to start stacking the range throw now, letting that Invader possibly soak up that bleed, and 2 Bloodthirsts on the board once again set up for this ice. Shaggy now needs to start being careful, as that is looking quite scary. Now we do see down comes the Behemoth, will only spawn 1 drone as there is only 1 spot open left. And once again, the Invader, so much value, soaking up yet another charge of bleeds. That's a 10-point Invader so far and a 12-point War of Clans.
Yeah, huge value off of War of Clans, which is what, like a 4 provision card, something like that. So really, really nice value. And it's a bit awkward for Shaggy. You know, he lost one of his Arrakis off of the Crimson Curse because of the Ekamaras blocking the row. But with that said, he does have a decent number of drones there. And Chimera and Triss Telekinesis, you know, they do play into the strategy. But Triss could low roll. We saw it last time. It didn't find Bone Talisman. And he had to make a choice based on what was left, because the Skellige player also has the bronze special cards.
And Shaggy, they're using the Chimera onto the bleeding drone, going to deny the bleed value as well as playing for some good points. The Chimera still up by quite a few, as let's see what ForeverYOLO is going to have to say about this. A lot of points that ForeverYOLO has to do. Not going to be easy at all.
You know, he's finally lucky in that the bleeding has gone onto the Raider, but, you know, he lost out on 2 ticks so far of the Crimson Curse. With that said, there isn't a spicy Turgby target at the moment. Well, not even at all. So Turgby not really looking so hot so far. I mean, I guess if you're into beards, he looks pretty hot. But you know.
If there's one thing I've learned from this game is Veil MVP. This Veil is smurfing here. Did I just see another trigger of that? No, never mind. Veil
it happens MVP. At the end of Shaggy's turn.
Yeah. Veil MVP, as it seems Turgby not going to be able to get off any value, really. I mean, I guess he gets some value on the Chimera, but this Turgby could have got a lot more value if it wasn't for this Veil on these Invaders. And of course, that or the Conquerors rather, as that Invader also getting so much value. Now we see no Talisman once again from Shaggy, really getting a little bit annoyed, I would imagine, from the fact this Triss just not cooperating. I mean, that's why I guess some people are yen people, as Triss just does not seem to want to behave.
She's a bad girl, that Triss. She just doesn't behave. And that's why some people are Triss people. So, you know, Shaggy passes out the round at 44 points to 26. So Turgby, not likely to be enough in this situation. Yeah,
it looks like this time around, ForeverYOLO is going to play the Iced, and instead going to want to try preserve card advantage. Is going to end up discarding that Invader, I believe. And we'll have to invest a lead ability as well if he wants to do this in 1 card. So a little bit of a different change of pace for ForeverYOLO. This time around, he's going to rather use lead ability in round 2. And instead, he will end up preserving card advantage, unlike the last game.
Yeah, and I wonder how many more points the Talisman would have been. You know, we ended up at 36 to 43 there with those 2 cards. And I feel like if he found the Talisman, that would have been closer. That could have potentially gone down to even cards. So now the situations have reversed. Previously, we saw Shaggy with the card advantage. Now it's Shaggy with 2 Wild Hunt Warriors and a Bone Talisman.
Yeah, it seems like ForeverYOLO might be trying to ease up some of the pressure. We see him singing a bit there, I believe, as he seems to be, I guess, a lot happier with how things have gone this game. Instead of having a card down, he now has a card up. He doesn't have the Ice this time around, but he has card advantage rather than card deficit, which, look at Shaggy's hand. He has a Yennefer, he's a Talisman, but he doesn't have much ways to swarm the board, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get that much payoff value from this. Here comes Yennefer, 17 to 6. That's not quite enough points, I would imagine, to make up what this Harold the Cripple is going to play for.
No, and I think he was just trying to get the swarm out before ForeverYOLO started to chain cards. He went for the mulligan on the Raider. Went for the Raider, maybe thought he wouldn't be able to maintain dominance, and got the Parasite instead, which I don't actually think was a win. Now Harold coming down to play, choosing to resurrect whatever he really likes. I feel like this is ForeverYOLO's game at this point.
Yeah, this is definitely looking a lot better for ForeverYOLO, as we see Harold the Cripple now going to be able to resurrect one of these bronze warriors. Shaggy, unfortunately, looking for a swarm card, didn't end up finding it. Found that the Parasite not being a terrible card, but it's not what Shaggy needed right now. Really want to get some more units on the board. Here comes the Harold the Cripple. That will be resurrecting an Invader. It seems Invader did a good job in round 2. So ForeverYOLO says, come again. You've done a good job. Let's see you do some more good work here, as the Parasite will be used to answer that Brock for Hunter. And this point gap is not looking very threatening for ForeverYOLO. Here comes the Turvy. That's going to be only 9-point Turvy, but I think that's going to be good
Shaggy
enough.
has 6 points. You know, like he has 6 points. Must be the bone talisman is 6. The point gap is currently 6. So unless ForeverYOLO, actually, even if ForeverYOLO discards his card at this point, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, looks like ForeverYOLO does finally get himself one on the board, gets himself his win, and Shaggy now just kind of shaking it off, and still Shaggy with the lead 2-1, but ForeverYOLO now one step close to tying it up. And once when you get to that point where it's 2-2, that's when you start getting a bit nervous, saying, "Oh my goodness, is my opponent actually going to reverse sweep me?" Because that is not what you want to happen to yourself.
Yeah, not quite at the 2-2 point, though, in this broadcast. We are currently at 2-1. So Shaggy still has Nilfgaard. No. Shaggy still has Rakaswarm. ForeverYOLO still has Nilfgaard, and he still has Lined Pockets left. So those are his decks that he's going to try and defeat this Rakaswarm list with. Do you think Rakaswarm is going to be the weak link for Shaggy?
I mean, again, ForeverYOLO still has Syndicate, so I have to say that Shaggy's in a fair position, because that is not going to be an easy matchup for Shaggy. So for Shaggy's side of things, he's always saying to himself, you know what, even if things go bad next game, I still have a Rakaswarm into Syndicate, so I should always be on top of things. But, you know, anything can happen. Anything can definitely happen. So overall, though, I think Shaggy still feeling pretty comfortable about where he's at right now.
Yeah, I think, you know, Shaggy, he knew that was going to be an uphill battle, and he got as far as he did the first time around, managing to get that tie, which was testament to, I think, his ability as a player. But when, you know, we start again, you're still going into an unfavored matchup, and we saw things go a little bit differently with Ice being played in round 2, and a card advantage going to ForeverYOLO, and, you know, that just spelled disaster for that final round. So, you know, as soon as you saw the cards, you could tell who'd won. But yeah, we have seen reverse sweeps before.
Yeah, it does happen. I mean, it's not super common, but it can happen. It can definitely happen. As we're going to get into game number 4 now soon, as it's going to be Shaggy now going to be going in, I believe, on, I think he is going to be on red coin again, and ForeverYOLO will go on blue coin in the next one. Again, ForeverYOLO is the one choosing the coin flip for these games now at this point. Shaggy kind of has no choice but to queue a Rakaswarm, whereas ForeverYOLO is the one deciding exactly what coin he wants to queue what deck on.
Yep, so ForeverYOLO in blue this time, and he has Nilfgaard and Syndicate. I mean, if you're worried about your Syndicate matchup, what coin does that prefer? You know, would you prefer to play blue coin Syndicate or red coin Syndicate into Rakaswarm?
That's a good question. I mean, both these decks have very strong round ones. The Rakaswarm with the portal and the and I think you have to pick whatever deck is able to have a strong round 1 for your blue coin, because if you choose a deck that's weakened on blue, which ForeverYOLO does seem to go with, it could be tricky. If he ends up getting coin flip abused here, he could be in trouble, as ForeverYOLO does opt to go for Nilfgaard on blue. And looking at his opening hand, he does not have the Joachim, nor does he have the coup de grace, which is a big source of Nilfgaard's, you know, kind of get out of jail free points if they find themselves in a position where they
there
need
is
points.
A huge amount of bronze cards there, and he's just managed to get into the coup de grace, which is nice. We're going to see the Joachim now, not quite slave hunter, so more bronze.
Yeah, coup de grace, very, very important in this matchup because of the fact that it threatens so much value onto a Yennefer potentially. It makes it quite difficult for the Rakaswarm player to actually play that Yennefer safely due to the fact that it could end up getting coup de grace, which is not what you want to have happen to you. So
I can't tell if ForeverYOLO is like shaking his head like no, or if he's having just a wee boogie.
I think like, he is just jamming. He is just trying to get the pressure off him. We were talking about this earlier. Players having to deal with the pressure for their first open. Maybe this is the answer. Maybe this is how ForeverYOLO finds himself playing to his best ability, is just putting on some tunes, jamming it out, and getting some of that, shaking some of that pressure off himself.
Yeah, he's just having a great time, just chilling, playing some music. The sun has come to shine on Shaggy's face as ForeverYOLO is playing the Great Sun. Maybe it's a sign, who knows? But in terms of the first few plays, you know, we've seen some Rakaswarm come out. They have Doomed. It makes your doggos really nice to thin. The Hunting Pack needing the status, but Doomed is a status. Plus the Nausicaa Sergeant engine on the board. Both players kind of respecting round 1, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, ForeverYOLO really has to respect Shaggy's round 1, because with the likes of Portal as well as that, as well as a Crimson Curse, there's a lot of points to be made for Shaggy in round 1, and it can be scary for Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard has a bit of a weird round 1. Sometimes they have a great round 1, but other times when you're missing things like Joachim and coup de grace, it can be awkward round 1. And looking at ForeverYOLO's hand, there are a lot of bronzes, and the poisons aren't really going to do much here. As Shaggy now going to commit the Crimson Curse, and here we go. What is the poison, or what's the beacon? It hits the veil once again. Man, for Shaggy can't catch a break with this Crimson Curse, can he?
Yeah, no, Forever Lucky doing Forever Lucky things at the moment. And this is where that Crystal Skull becomes super annoying because of the veil. Like, that unit doesn't have veil by default, right? It was given veil by the ability. So Shaggy's like, well, you can try and maybe wait for Crimson Curse until there's a row without veil or those sorts of things, but it's always going to be a risk.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a bit awkward. I mean, Shaggy just wants the points, I think, to get that pressure going. But unfortunately, that veil will end up saving ForeverYOLO some points there, as Shaggy now has to do quite a bit if he wants to get ahead. And I believe Shaggy really does want to try stay if possible. The question is, how exactly does he go about doing it? Looks like he's going to play the Bruiser, moves that out of the way and say, no more Forever Lucky for you.
Yeah, I was going to say he could choose to move the Nausicaa Sergeant. And I don't hate it because, there's not that many other things you really want to be moving around on your opponent's side of the board. In this matchup, it's not like they have the Ancrate Longships, for example. The poison coming out on the biggest target on the board, ForeverYOLO recognizing that I ain't going to get much bigger than this. I've got the poisons in hand. I may as well put them out there.
Yeah, you see the poison now does come down. And ForeverYOLO does have to be careful. I mean, if he commits too much this round, he could end up finding himself losing on even. It is not something you really want to go up against with this bleed ticking here. I mean, ForeverYOLO does have a pass if he wants it. He does take the pass, says, I'm not playing any more into this. And this does mean Shaggy will have to play an additional card here. So Shaggy now winning round 1 does commit the Crimson Curse. Are we going to see a bleed in round 2? I do expect to see perhaps some more bleed, especially with that portal still available for Shaggy.
Yeah, when you have the portal and you haven't seen any Joachims, you haven't seen, any of that kind of strategy, you definitely want to start considering ways of finding it. With that said, ForeverYOLO doesn't have Joachim. Well, he does now. I was going to say he doesn't have Joachim, and he needs to find a way to access Joachim, but he just drew into it. So I'm just going to stop talking.
One downside about playing the portal and the Unarmed Conquerors in this matchup is the fact that it gives Nilfgaard a good Dutch Informant target. Usually Dutch Informants aren't very good against Ruckus Swarm, but because of the portal and because of the fact that Nilfgaard is indeed a devotion deck, you can play those Unarmed Conquerors of your opponents. So this Dutch Informant, which otherwise would have been a bad card, actually not looking too bad right now.
Yeah, put some nice value in ForeverYOLO's hands. And I think, Shaggy's like, he's aware that he's going to play into Duchess Informants at some point, so he may as well just do it and see what happens, kind of thing. And as he's played the Crimson Curse, the Duchess's Informants onto the Unarmed Conqueror is not quite as annoying as if your opponent has access to so many Veil units.
And we do see that Shaggy has that Neuromancy in hand, which he can use to get a lot of flexibility into his deck. I don't think Shaggy's going to be able to play the Yennefer in this situation because of the fact that, again, you can't really play Yennefer unless you're final say against Nilfgaard, because of the fact that it does end up giving your opponent such a threatening coup de grace. As ForeverYOLO now only down by 8 points. However, that gap is going to climb to 15 once this next turn is concluded with the second Unarmed Conqueror jumping out of deck from Shaggy's.
I would say that Shaggy does have quite a comfortable hand to play into a bleed. He has a lot of things that synergize quite nicely. He has the cards to make the swarm. He has the cards to boost the swarm. And you can see ForeverYOLO here deciding to respect the portal, playing his Masquerade Ball and just saying, you know what, I'm going to have to commit something into this round. I know you're going to try and bleed me, so I may as well, make hay while the sun shines and get this on the board. Shaggy, though, he has a decision to make. How threatened does he buy poisons as a swarm list?
Not a whole lot. There really isn't much to worry about there. But however, Shaggy, interesting enough, not going to use the Heat Wave onto this Masquerade Ball. Instead, he's going to keep the Heat Wave for maybe a Toll Punish and going to say, go ahead, poison me. What are you going to poison a drone? I don't care. What do you think about this play from Shaggy's Jagras, not using Heat Wave on the Masquerade Ball?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's fine. There's not really great poison targets. You can't poison the Conquerors because they have Veil. So your best poison at the moment is a 5-point drone, which isn't amazing. And you're basically saving that heat wave for a Joachim target, for example. You're saving it and you're saying, I'm going to heat wave this. Could you heat wave Joachim?
He could be on Yoki. You're playing a negative 4-point play. I'm not sure if that's something you really want to be doing because that.
But then you
almost
deny
always
Cantarella and coup de grace.
Yes, but the same thing is if you do that and you go a card down, then suddenly your opponent has final say, and then the Nilfgaard player can coup de grace your Yennefer. You need to still maintain final say as the Arachaswarm player. Otherwise, that Yennefer just can't come on the board at all. As we now see Shaggy going to use another leader charge, filling up the melee row for that Arachas Behemoth and getting so much points from this. But however, ForeverYOLO with this Poison Step on the board and this Masquerade Ball, he has a lot of points coming soon. And here it comes. Here's the first Joachim, and that is going to end up pulling out a Nausicaa Sergeant, and suddenly the point gap shooting right back in ForeverYOLO's reach.
And there's another chapter also of the Masquerade Ball. So you have to decide how far you want to go here. You know, you still have the Bone Talisman, you still have the Chimera, so you do have decent value as the Swarm player. You know, Shaggy does have nice value in hand and he can extend the point gap, but you know that ForeverYOLO is going to kind of come right back at it, and you have to decide when is the best time to pause, right? Because if you go too hard in ForeverYOLO, he finishes his chapter, he plays his coup de grace, he gets another Joachim target, he maybe matches or outpaces you, and suddenly you don't have last say, your Yennefer is ruined and the game is over.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely something you have to be wary of. It looks like Shaggy, though, does not want to take the pass just yet. Instead, is going to go for the Triss. This time, though, I believe Shaggy did find the talisman. So finally, Triss will behave, it seems, and gets the talisman. Although Shaggy deciding against it, rather going to take some more Swarm, it seems, and maybe clog up the entire board, making these Listal units worthless. Now things like Duchess Informant and even Coup de Grace doesn't have any value because the ForeverYOLO can't play Coup de Grace onto the Joachim. There's no space available any longer, as we now see leader ability coming from ForeverYOLO. That could be used to open up some space if he wants it. So let's see what ForeverYOLO decides to pick here.
And opting to pick the Heatwave, unsurprising if the board is cloggered, then clearing that up, getting 7 points of value, not too bad. And it's allowing him to make Cable the Sunshines. It's allowing him to play that. But Brathen's onto a clogged board.
Oh, that is definitely not what you want to see your Brathens doing. Oof. Ouch.
Just get discarded. What happens?
Yeah, I believe it does trigger some Ascendant, I think, but it just doesn't do anything. It does get ForeverYOLO ahead, though. But, I mean, ForeverYOLO can't play the Duchess Informant. It's actually very awkward for him, but again, mana could be used to open up space with the Tony Jar, so...
The thing is, as soon as he opens up space, that allows Shaggy to play the Chimera.
Exactly,
so Shaggy in this position, you know, he's got to make a call. He's down, so he's not winning on even at this stage. So he's got to decide, you know, what do I want to play? And he's got uninteractive cards. You know, he can afford to take a couple turns. He can play the Heatwave. He can play the Bone Talisman here, boost up his board, and just kind of clog things up and make it really hard for ForeverYOLO. ForeverYOLO, he has the follow-up Poison, right? He's got that option. You talked about the Tony Joust as well. So he's got some options here that are not necessarily dealing with things, but Shaggy has something to fill that space.
Yeah, for sure. Shaggy now is going to be able to do just that, as he has to take the Bruiser here, which we do see will just come down for 5 points, keeping ForeverYOLO ahead just enough. Shaggy, though, does have that Bone Talisman, but now ForeverYOLO could play the location onto a Mentor. Will that be enough, though? It does trigger Assimilate. It plays for, I believe, what is Yennefer's Provisions? It's 10. Is that a tie? I think that might just not be enough.
Don't do maths. Don't be silly.
Oh.
Imagine doing maths. Oh, I got a drop. Yeah. Thanks, CDPR.
Is it going to be enough, though? Let's see. As we see, down comes the location here. What's he going to go for? Maybe he wants to go for some Clog, or maybe he wants to go for a High Roll Alchemist. There's so many options you can take for ForeverYOLO here. The question is, does he think he can get ahead with this Mentor, or is he going to go for some other kind of shenanigans? Of course, again, Viper, which can get great value on as carryover for clogging Shaggy's Final Mulligans. And Alchemist, we all know what Alchemist can do, so that's always an option. Let's see what ForeverYOLO decides to go for. He goes for the Alchemist. Oh boy, here's where things get dicey. What is he going to get? Give Shaggy the 20 jars, and he gets... What does he get?
What does he get, Jaggers? What does he get?
He gets Whisper's Tribute. Now that's a bit of a mixed bag, because
it doesn't help him.
Right? It takes away a good card from Shaggy, but ForeverYOLO can't use that. So that's also not a good card you want to Joachim into.
How does ForeverYOLO win here? Oh, he's got Poison. Never mind, he's got Poison. I thought for a second that wasn't a Poison target. I was like, oh, he's got 4 points in hand, but no. And I love that bleed from Shaggy. I love the choice of Triss not to go for the Bone Talisman, go for the Clog, and play out things in that way. And Alchemist, not so forever lucky this time around.
Yeah, I mean, ForeverYOLO still does have that double Joachim which you can utilize. Unfortunately, though, that Whisper's Tribute could end up making the double Joachim pretty bad. Finds the Cantarella there, so again, the double Joachim might end up getting this. Alchemist could be a blessing and a curse, it seems, as that might end up coming into play for ForeverYOLO.
Yep, and Shaggy's hand, he's got some uninteractive options here, which Nilfgaard kind of hates to see.
This could be one. I don't want to say it, but this could be close. This could be close, Jaguars.
Yeah, the thing is, Shaggy, I think he has to play the Wild Hunt Rider here. Like, he could think about playing uninteractive and killing the Slave Hunter, but you know your opponent's playing Joachim. What opportunities are you going to get to thin these Wild Hunt Riders? Like, he mulliganed to try and find, something better. Obviously, I think maybe try and find the Yennefer. Didn't find it. He's got an Aeromancy in hand, so he can get it that way. But I don't think he necessarily wanted to play the Wild Hunt Riders in this round.
So let's see what ForeverYOLO ends up top decking to that Joachim. That Whisper's Tribute could be awkward as he shuffles back the Joachim as expected. Now we're going to see down will come that that Cantarella, and this will be pulling out what exactly misses the Whisper's Tribute, finds the Vigo instead. That is definitely way better than the Whisper's Tribute, that's for sure. And there is still takes the Emissary.
Yeah, you're not afraid of Heatwave, right? You saw Heatwave round one, I believe, like snapped super early. So you're not worried about the Heatwave. So in this situation, you can kind of afford to have some big boys. 23 points to 14. Invocation maybe not going to find the nicest target in this matchup. And bear in mind, there is still that Yennefer for the Swarm. So you have to be a little bit wary of that. With that said, ForeverYOLO does have a little bit of Swarm of his own. He's got cards that play cards. But he does put more units on Shaggy's side of the board. So he plays against himself. He's got cards that play cards. But those cards go on Shaggy's side of the board.
Yep, I mean, ForeverYOLO also has some cards that play cards, evidently, as he is going to have that coup de grace available onto that Joachim, which I do expect to see come out here. The question is, though, is he going to pull the Whisper's Tribute or not? I guess he could play Invocation to guarantee maybe that it pulls out maybe the Chimera instead, but instead he goes for the, there's the Whisper's Tribute. That is, again, something you don't want. But however, I think that ForeverYOLO is still in a decent spot, as that is not going to be the best Joachim target in the world.
No, I don't think it will be. And Shaggy here, you have to make a choice a little bit. You've got your Neuromancy. Do you want to play your Yen now, or do you want to wait? He's opting to play his Yen now, thinking, ForeverYOLO might play a unit. As it is, ForeverYOLO would have taken a unit away from him, so it kind of cancels out. It doesn't actually matter in this situation. It puts the point gap to 41 to 43. But I think the Invocation a little bit more valuable than this 4-point natural selection.
Yeah, so ForeverYOLO he's jamming now. ForeverYOLO really jamming it out. He is happy. Almost remounting this reverse sweep. 2-2. We spoke about this. It is almost happening. 2-2. With ForeverYOLO 1 win away from eliminating Shaggy from this tournament. Will he do it? Will he do it? How are you joining it?
He's got the moves like Jagger. What can I say? I don't know. That makes my day. I love when players actually have emotions. It gives me life when you actually see some kind of reaction from players, and you can see that he's very, very happy with that win, taking the Nilfgaard win off of Recast Swarm. And we talked about the reverse sweep. We talked about the 2-2. Now the moment is here. No one can choose which coin they queue on.
Yep, this is do or die. And I mean, again, it's still in a decent spot for Shaggy, but I don't know how much this changes things with playing Portal rather than the Yurden in this matchup, or even a Curse of Corruption. So a little bit of a different variant on the Recast Swarm from Shaggy. I'm not sure how much it impacts the game. However, this is going to put ForeverYOLO 1 win away from going from 0-2 down to 3-2 potentially, if he's able to win this next one. And that would be quite an upset if ForeverYOLO is able to edge out against Shaggy here. That would be definitely a big confidence boost going into the rest of this tournament for ForeverYOLO if he's able to pull a win through.
Yeah, let's go. Team Glasses. We're gonna win. No, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like, it's an uphill battle for Syndicate against the Recast Swarm. How do you think that the Portal versus, say, the Erden would have fared in the Nilfgaard matchup? Because there are a lot of toll units in Nilfgaard that you like to reset.
Yeah, Jurden can be quite nice against Syndicate, but it can also be sometimes awkward. It's a great catch-up mechanic if you need it. If you're you're getting bled by Syndicate, you can kind of say, okay, do what you want. I'm going to threaten this massive Jurden anyway at some point, so I'm just going to have that. However, Portal has some other applications. Obviously, it can be a great round one card, putting some pressure on. However, Shaggy will be on blue coins, so maybe going to use that Portal, maybe defend a bleed. Nice, just 14 points of unconditional points, so to speak, as we're going to get into the final game of the series. Shaggy on blue, ForeverYOLO on red.
Look at Shaggy's hand. That is very bronze.
That is indeed very bronze. But I mean, the bronze in Ruckusform can be quite good. Unfortunately, that for Shaggy, he doesn't really have that Portal, nor does he have a Neuromancy, nor does he have the Crimson Curse. And that could be bad news for Shaggy. If ForeverYOLO gets a strong hand, he could maybe threaten to win on even with a hand like this for Shaggy. Finds a Crimson Curse. That's a very big sigh of relief for Shaggy to be able to get that, big points for round one to defend a aggressive push here.
And both players sitting on relatively bronze hands in this round one. That's not always bad. A lot of times it's good to play your bronze, get them out of the way. And ForeverYOLO, not in that situation where you have too many profit and not enough spenders. He's got some spenders, he's got some profit in there. So he's got options for how he wants to play out his coins.
For sure. 2 spenders though, a little bit much for ForeverYOLO. I don't think that's exactly what he wanted, having both the spenders. Is a little bit redundant, as we do see now. A Neuromancy going to be grabbed onto the Furker, going to go for the full tempo swing of the Novigradian Justice. Unfortunately, the Safecracker, not the biggest Safecracker I've ever seen. Only going to be 6 points. Now it will be at 7, of course, but could have been a little bit better if it wasn't for these redundant spenders. Also, a dead Gordon hand for ForeverYOLO as well in this round one. A little bit of an awkward hand for him too.
Is Shaggy having a little bit of a head bop now as well? Is this the new tactic of when opens, is to just get that little bit of a head sway going on, get a little bit of groove on the go, and enjoy life? I don't know. Who knows? But
I'm really curious. What do you think ForeverYOLO is jamming to right now? I want to know. I got to know what's being jammed. Like, look at the jam that's going on the screen.
He's tossing a coin to his Witcher, a Valley of Plenty, obviously.
What about the sun is shining and so are you?
It could have been. It could have been the sun is shining. But you know that some say, "You will love me one day, and I will wait," or whatever the fuck it is that song goes that you always jam on your stream. He's jamming to Spiro's stream playlist. That's what it is.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Yeah, it has to be it. And let's see if the jams can carry ForeverYOLO into the semifinals, as he is 1 win away from securing it. He does seem confident. Shaggy now getting the swarm on the board, plays, I believe that was a nest, and look at how many bodies Shaggy has on the board right now. It could be a big, big talisman and chimera coming down soon.
And also bear in mind Shaggy being quite lucky so far with his Crimson Curse, putting bleeding on the Safecracker, putting bleeding on the Furco, and avoiding the Cleaver's Muscle. And there, we'll have to wait and see where the next ping goes, but that's a lot of swarm. Like, I don't know how ForeverYOLO is winning this round.
Yeah, ForeverYOLO is going to have a difficult time winning this round. That's the thing, though. If the Syndicate player is not able to win round 1, giving a long round to Ruckus Swarm is dangerous. You have the drill, but a drill is not enough, and it will get answered by the likes of a Parasite, and Cleaver can also get answered quite easily by the likes of a Lock. However, ForeverYOLO going to play the reach game, it seems, once again. Getting that spender on the board, still staying ahead of Shaggy for now. Going to do some math, figuring out how much he has to spend. And Shaggy, I think, really feeling that pressured by just it. He can say, yep, go get ahead of me. I have lots of payoff cards here. I don't care. I'm just going to play some chimeras and some talismans. Do what you want.
We talked about the bronze hand of Shaggy, and this is where having an all bronze hand works, because you managed to find the Crimson Curse, so he's got that tempo. And the Crimson Curse is paying back in dividends. It's hitting all the right targets so far. He's got the Bone Talisman, and he's got a couple chimeras, so he's quite happy to play out those chimeras, boost up the board, get the bodies out, and just sail off into the sunset on the back of an Recast drone.
Yeah, that is for sure. And down will come that chimera. First one goes down on the board now. ForeverYOLO needs to figure out how badly he wants to contest this round. How much does he actually want to try win uneven? It's not going to be easy for him at all. He does have that Siggy that will play for a lot of points, but he needs to be careful not to overspend on one spender, as it would play very hard into a heat. We're going to play instead the Bloody Good Fun and possibly offer Shaggy the pass here, it seems. And now Shaggy, let's see if he does decide to take it or if he wants to keep it. I think Shaggy can keep going if he wants to. I don't think it's that difficult to do for him.
Yeah, I think with the current board state, I'm not convinced. Like he can quite easily pull the trigger and put a few more points out. The thing is that you have to be a little bit wary of is over winning. I know that sounds really bad, but like winning by too many points, because those points that you win by you could have kept for future rounds. So sometimes you can go a bit too hard in round one, and that's why you have to be careful. Overcommitting. That's what I was trying to say. Overwinning. No, overcommitting.
I think you can never overwin. I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as overwinning. I would love to be overwinning. That sounds like a good place to be. I don't. So
Yeah, I think
what exactly is Shaggy gonna do here?
It's YOLO's turn. So nothing.
Okay, looks like YOLO does take the pass. And that does mean that now Shaggy wins round 1. Is he going to take a long round 3? I mean, he hasn't really done too much then. He did stun out the Riders, hasn't done out the Portal just yet, as Shaggy will find that Yennefer does not have their Neuromancer just yet. Heatwave, of course, a nice pickup there. And obviously Behemoth also doing quite good. If we do go into long round 3, I wonder what ForeverYOLO's chances are there. Looks not so happy about that final mulligan on to the... Ooh, no...
Oof. Oof.
That is a bit of an interesting hand. The question is, will we see a bleed from Shaggy? He doesn't have a portal. I don't think he can bleed with this hand. This hand doesn't look very bleed friendly.
Yeah, it's tricky because if you look at the deck of ForeverYOLO, there is a lot of gold that he missed. He doesn't have Kurt. He doesn't have Philippa. He doesn't have Tunnel Drill. He doesn't have Tavern Brawl. He doesn't have Jacques. So, a lot of gold still in deck. Shaggy also missing his portal, which is pretty big, but actually managing to find it there with the final mulligan.
When we do see Shaggy will actually go for the bleed here, trying to maybe get that cleaver out from ForeverYOLO, crippling that drill if it were to come out. Now the question is, what exactly is ForeverYOLO going to do? He's going to opt to start with the Siggy, get himself to Horde 9, and that will, of course, get the Flying Dane out once again, coming back from the grave, just like the Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, and the sequencing of Shaggy's hands at the moment is pretty predictable. He's going to play an Arrakis Storm. He needs to Swarm. So he's going to play an Arrakis from Swarm. He's going to use his Spontaneous Evolution to start to swarm the boards. Then he may play the Arrakis Behemoth to continue to swarm the boards. Then he may play some Bone Talismans and some Yennefer. It's a very sequenced hand. There's a very clear way that you play this. ForeverYOLO, he's got to decide how he wants to counter. And actually here going in with the abduction of the Philippa on the Anel to try and really close that gap a little bit and play some tempo.
Man, players are really starting to pick up the pace here. This is some blitzy Gwent gameplay as Shaggy now up by 13 points. ForeverYOLO maybe force spin that cleaver. If he spends cleaver, the drill becomes significantly worse for round 3. I don't think he's going to have much of a choice but to play the cleaver. Now we do see cleaver coming down into this round as ForeverYOLO will end up trying to stay ahead of Shaggy's score, presumably will end up having to spend some needed charge if he wants to, which he does do just that, getting himself up to Horde 4 to spend with that cleaver one more time and staying just ahead of Shaggy's score right now. So the question is, what exactly is Shaggy going to do here? Both boards have a couple of units on them. So this Yennefer isn't looking absolutely phenomenal for Shaggy right now.
Yeah, if ForeverYOLO hadn't pulled the trigger with the cleaver there, I think Shaggy would have been in a position where he'd be quite happy to play the Yennefer now while his board was nice and stacked and ForeverYOLO's wasn't. But ForeverYOLO getting that cleaver on the board, getting some points out, it does mean that he's managed to close the gap. I don't think Shaggy can pass here, right? He's going to lose a card if he passes here. But I tell a lie.
Does
you know what?
take the toss. Wow, that means that Shaggy now will be a card down. I mean, again, drill, whilst it won't have many crown spells for round 3, you can still use the drill to spend 2 coins and do 1 damage, which 1 damage can be good enough sometimes just to clear out some Arrakis drones. I mean, if you kill drones, those drones are going to grow to like 3-4 strength anyway. It's not the worst thing in the world to use that drill to clear out some 1-point tokens potentially.
I don't like that pass though. The point gap wasn't that big. I think you could have played, say, a Bone Talisman. I mean, maybe he's worried about Triss low rolling, but if you're worried about Triss low rolling, maybe you play it there and see what happens.
I mean,
I just feel like
scary.
Yeah, I just feel like
If
Shaggy kind of threw that round 2 away where he could have still played into it. I'm not 100% sure what his thinking was.
I mean, we'll have to see if it was the right decision or not as we're going to go into round 3. And ForeverYOLO is 1 win away from mounting the reverse sweep. He is jamming it out right now. He is singing to the heavens as he's trying to muster up all the confidence he can find to win this game. Going to decide what he wants to make on his final mulligan here. Does have Jacques. Jacques will be able to put 3 bodies on the board, make the Yennefer a little bit worse perhaps. And Let's see now what ends up happening in round number 2 as ForeverYOLO going to fill up his bank, get that boat out, and now this drill looking quite threatening for ForeverYOLO.
Yeah, because ForeverYOLO is in a position where he can jam the drill, he can remove Recast right at 2. That's the kind of the fear of the drill, or at 3. He's got that. Sorry, is it at 3? Is it 2? I'm being stupid.
That is going to be able to spend 2 coins to do 3 damage potentially.
So
if
he
you have
can remove the drones at 3, which is quite a big deal because you're getting maximum value from your drill. You're removing bodies that are going to get boosted, and you're stopping your opponent's swarm. And if you can also play units yourself in that moment, then you're basically counteracting Yennefer.
Oh, and here comes the drill. And again, this drill doesn't look that amazing, but it actually is because these tokens will grow up by 2 or 3 points. So that drill still being able to do so much work here as it does end up clearing out a lot of Shaggy's swarm, making that Yennefer significantly worse as Shaggy will end up using the heat wave to deal with that drill. Does not want it sticking around for any longer.
No, I think you have to heat wave the drill. As a spender, it's just too scary. I'm still kind of stuck on Shaggy passing in round 2, if I'm honest with you. I'm still a little bit stuck on that play. And we talked about, swarming the board as Syndicate, and this is something that Jacques does. He spawns some more bodies. And how does Shaggy really swarm here? He's got a couple leader charges. And other than that, he maybe has to try and find a natural selection selective mutation off of Triss.
Let's see exactly what Shaggy's going to... What exactly is Shaggy going to opt to do here? This Triss does not look great. No swarm for Shaggy. That is not good news. And again, in this matchup, this is where Triss is actually very awkward because there really isn't much consistency to hope for from Triss, as there are so many bronze units, or bronze specials rather, in Syndicate, which really dilute the Triss pools, as we now do see. Down will come that natural selection, not going to be doing a whole lot, and this Yennefer is not great right now.
Yeah, and we talked about, things like the Triss versus like the Erden and stuff. And, maybe an Erden would have been better than this Triss, given how these pulls have gone. ForeverYOLO, though, he is having the time of his life. He's just having a little boogie. I think he feels quite confident in the situation going into this round of card up. He's got a pretty stacked hand, and he's really managed to mitigate the swarm that Shaggy can create so far.
Yeah, now we do see Shaggy getting some units on the board, but it's not all that much. The Talisman will play for, I believe, that is going to be 7 points right now, and that Yennefer will be a couple, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. ForeverYOLO still has a massive gourd finisher, still has some coins to spend with, and it is going to be very tough for Shaggy to win here, as that Triss did not end up getting much swarm for Shaggy to get on the board.
Like, he had some swarm in round 2. He built up the swarm and just didn't play any of his payoff cards. Instead, he opted to pass and go a card down. And I don't understand that choice at all. What is it that you're worried about losing on? Because you're not worried on losing a card down because you opted to lose a card down. Like, you opted to lose that round of card down. So that's not what you're scared of in that situation.
Yeah, I guess
and ForeverYOLO has 8 coins in the bank.
I guess Shaggy was possibly saying he was possibly in a position where he thought he was going to go card down regardless and wanted to try preserve the hand quality going into the next round. However, down will come the Sea Jackal, and it's going to be Gourd versus this Talisman. I don't think this Talisman is going to be enough. Down comes the Gourd. You're going to see ForeverYOLO celebrating here, really jamming it out to his heart's content, as he does mount the reverse sweep. That's going to give ForeverYOLO so much confidence going into the remaining series of this tournament. Shaggy, unfortunately, will be eliminated, so congratulations ForeverYOLO winning that first series against the veteran Shaggy.
And that's a result that anyone really expected. Let's be kind of honest, given the state of the game. When Shaggy was 2-0 up quite dominantly, and we'd seen ForeverYOLO make a couple of little misplays in those games, I think he definitely looked like the underdog. But you can see the way that his mindset changed. Once he got that draw and then the Skellige win, you could see that the way that he was acting, he felt a lot more confident. And then I guess that pays dividends. Like, mindset is massive in Gwent, and we saw the impact of that, as unfortunately for Shaggy, he is out. He will not win all the money to buy all the Scooby snacks that his heart desires, as ForeverYOLO goes on into the semifinals.
Man, what a series that was for ForeverYOLO. What a way to make an entrance into the open scene there, going from 0 to... He had a bit of a shaky start. He went to card down the Skellige Mirror. Things were not looking great, but ForeverYOLO, he turned on some tunes. He started jamming it out, getting the pressure off him, and mounting the reverse sweep. And what a reverse sweep it was, as he will be taking home so far, already pocketing 1,000
Oh,
450. Wait, is that wrong? I think it's wrong way
Yeah,
around. $1,655.
It's not on our stream. It's not on the stream, but on the official stream, they just said that Shaggy won 3-2. That is incorrect. Shaggy, in fact, lost 3-2 ForeverYOLO, taking home the Lions' share of the money. And as Arabeth in chat said, it seems that the Spiro tactic is correct. If you go 0-2 down, then you have the advantage of being able to choose the coin, right? And that is massive. If you can choose the coin, and so really, I think it was tactical loss by ForeverYOLO. He wanted to share the money with Shaggy.
He went 2 cards down. He went 2 cards down to lose the mirror. It was all part of the plan of choosing the coin flip. Like it was all genius from ForeverYOLO. We all doubted him, but it was actually part of the 5-hit tactics. Go 2 down, choose the coin flips, win the series of reverse sweep.
It's the glasses, man. It's just it makes you play better. I'm gonna put that one out there. Like so far, my predictions. Me and Spessy, we predicted YOLO. So Spiro and Quill currently down a point. Me and Spessy 1 point up. We'll see which caster is the most psychic as we start to head towards the final game of this. The next game of the series. Do you have anything else to add, Spiro?
No, I think that wraps up the first game quite nicely. We'll be jumping on then with Quill and Spacey soon, who will be looking at Tailbot, or should I say Tobliat versus Cams in the next round.